She just walk in the room and just candy and food. And anytime she said something was difficult, like she wanted to go out for sports. So she would go out for sports. Like I think she tried like 3 or 4 or 5 of them. But every time she'd be like, oh man, like it's kind of difficult. And they'd be like, oh, if it's difficult, just stop. Don't do it. Like if it's difficult, don't do anything. Like just sit down. There's just a lot of absolute nonsense. So
people need people for sure.
Yes, back to your point of people needing people. Welcome to the Any Last Words Pod. My name is Earl Lonnie Hooks. A very, very special thanks to everybody that will be joining us today on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, as well as YouTube. And please do not forget to follow us on Instagram at ALW Pod. The God in me honors the God in each and every one of you. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
coming
me.
in. Let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the last time you were essentially put on a blind date of sorts? The last time someone came to you and said, I know this person, right? Romantically or not. And you should go sit down with them somewhere.
I do.
Tell us about that.
So my current boyfriend.
Yes.
This happened with him.
That's so funny.
I know.
That's so funny because I just thought about asking you this question like before we sat down.
That's so funny.
Just clearly in concurrence with what's happening with us right now. Uh-huh. That's why it came to my mind. And I was like, how ill would it be if she was like, actually, my current boyfriend. That's so crazy.
Well, there you go.
Okay, all right. So tell me about that.
Okay. So 2 years ago, I started at the chiropractor's office that I'm working at now. Mm-hmm. And I met my boyfriend's dad.
Okay.
He was a patient there.
Okay.
And well, he still is, but he used to come in a lot more.
Okay.
And while I do the soft tissue on patients before they get adjusted. So while I'm doing the soft tissue, I've got about 8 to 10 minutes with each patient.
Yeah.
And we're talking, and he's just asking me questions about myself and everything. Fast forward.
So dad's taking the lead.
Yes,
He's just
so
asking.
dad is, and I have no idea to this, right? I don't know his family. Yeah. I don't know that he has a son.
Right.
Fast forward a year later, he actually visits my church with his family.
Okay.
Because their pastor had gotten COVID. And so.
Yeah.
And, well, I did forget a piece. When we were talking, we found out that his neighbors went to my church. So he was excited about that.
Okay.
But again, I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, of course.
He never came to visit or anything. I come to church one Sunday, and it was actually a God thing that I was there at all because I was going through kind of a party. Well, I still like to go out, but I definitely wasn't consistent with going on Sundays. But this Sunday I went. I had gone out the night before, but I just went anyways because I do like to see my parents. So I went to hang out. And then one of the ladies from my church comes up to me after the sermon, and she goes, so my neighbors are here, and their son is really cute, and you should go over and talk to him. And I look over, and I'm like, oh, I know his dad, but I can't remember from where, because it had been a while since I'd seen his dad.
Right, yeah.
And I could not for the life of me figure it out. And then they make their way over, and I'm with my dad, and Wade is my boyfriend's dad's name, and he came up and he was like, Rachel, and I still couldn't remember his name at the time, so I was like,
hey,
oh no.
Hey, you!
And I was like, I'm so sorry, I can't remember where I know you from. And he's like, Lighthouse. And he's like, this is my family. And he had his daughter and his son with him. And so they introduced me to them, and Luke is my boyfriend's name. So I got
Shout out to Luke.
I got to meet him, and I still wasn't really thinking about it too much, but he was very cute. I didn't think about it too much.
Yeah.
It all happened too fast.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is really fast.
And
like,
it's
hey, you should go over there, talk to his dad. And then Wade comes over, hey, meet my son. And then Luke's there like, hey, what's up?
But
I'm Luke.
me being me was either super oblivious, or they just did such a smooth job of not making me actually feel like they were trying to set me up.
Like it was a real setup. It was very seamless.
Exactly. But I actually, a few dates after, so a month later, Luke does call me up and ask me on a date. But this is after a lot of people kept saying, oh, you should go on a date with him and everything. They just could tell by our personalities, I guess, that we would get along well.
Okay. In the first date?
Yeah. So it went really well.
It went really well. Okay.
Oh, I enjoyed it so much.
Okay.
So we got together. He took me out for dinner. And we just talked, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We just got to know each other, and there wasn't any awkward silence. And I just thought that, I don't know, he was so sweet, and I just really liked him.
Well, I'm glad that you had that experience, because it was probably not just that one, but experiences like that reinforced meeting new people in that sort of setup. Like, hey, you should just go sit down with this dude that you have no idea about that just does a podcast, where that sort of works out. And you're like, you know what? I've done this before. It might go well.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that was able to be the case for you.
I am pretty good at trusting people early on. And
really?
some people in my family, I think, are scared for me in certain aspects.
Right.
But, like, I've learned a lot, because I've definitely had bad experiences with that. So I am cautious, but I don't know that, I don't know. Sometimes you can just tell when people don't have any, like, second.
Yeah.
They don't, they're not
any
dirty.
Ulterior
They're just,
motives.
yeah, they're just, they're being
they're not
honest.
dirty.
They're not dirty. They're just trying to be nice and. I didn't know how.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, like, they're not dirty. They're not grimy. They're not looking at you with, like, deceit and, like, trying to figure out, like, an angle. It's just the person that's sitting in front of you is just that. Like, they're just them.
Just that.
Yeah, that is true. But you gotta learn that, though.
Yeah, you do. You have to learn that it could go either way.
Yeah.
And that's a hard lesson to learn.
It is.
I think.
Like, before this, you were asking me if I felt like most kids growing up are just kind of are going to find drugs, like, appealing, and just want to sort of just test them out or know about them. And if I also feel like the conditions in which they grow up around are a huge part of that, right? Like, so the nurture part of it. And I definitely think that there's a huge nature part of it. I definitely feel like it can be something that is genetic. Like, if I'm just in the womb and my mom's just doing crack, like, there's a good chance I might come out and just, like, want some crack. Like, I might have this addictive personality or trait that's just kind of wrought through. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but, like, I hear that that's a thing, right? So in a lot of those experiences that I just very, very lightly, if I didn't even really touch on it, just kind of like brush through, it's a lot of those experiences that taught me so much, not just about myself, but about, like, seeing other people, like, and noticing other people's intentions, and being able to, like, look at people in their face and in their eyes and in their body language, and listen to their tone of voice, and acutely, like, dissect their verbiage, like the words that they're using on me. And it's just like, but it's all one huge thing. It's like one huge mosaic piece. And we call that intuition, right? So at the end of the day, I think a lot of those help my intuition, but you have to kind of go through these modes. I mean, and everyone's way of getting there is very different. Which is why a lot of people's intuition are, like, fucked up in regards to other people's intuition. Yeah. But yeah, I think you definitely have to go through those to try to figure out, like, can I go over this person's house? Like, and when I open up the door, like, what's the vibe when I walk in? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on in here? Well, it looks pretty cool. He's got some purples and some greens on the wall. He's got some live what you love up on this wall. Like, okay, all right. See, like, so far seems like pretty good.
So far, so good.
Went on a nice little walk.
There you go.
Right? We got some water.
Icebreaker.
We got some water. We're good to go.
Good to go.
All right. So how do you feel so far?
I feel good. I still feel a little bit nervous, I won't lie.
What? So about what? Like, can you pinpoint what? Like, what nervous about what?
I think I don't know. I think it's just knowing that so many people can listen, even though they're not right here in the room with me. Right. It's just, yeah.
You're just conscious about your words.
I guess so. Yeah.
Huh.
I guess so. I guess because I want this to be something, because it's an exciting experience.
Okay.
I don't know anyone in my family that's been asked to be on a podcast before, and I just think that that's so interesting and cool.
Yeah.
Because in a million, like, I just wouldn't have thought that someone would have asked me to do this. So I'd like for them to be able to listen, you know?
Isn't it kind of funny when someone says, hey, you should meet this other person? Did you ever go back and ask? Well, I guess you didn't, because you just said that you assume now that all of that huge cohort of humans that wanted you to meet Luke just probably thought these two would get along. It's something about them. But you never asked for specifics, right? Like, you never asked for details. Like, what was it really that made you want me to go talk to this guy?
Yeah,
like, you never asked that?
No, I guess not. I know Wade mentioned, I just thought she'd be your type.
It's one of those things. Yeah, the type. It's so vague, but possibly so true.
Possibly.
Okay. Do you know why Jess put us here in this room?
She said, well, just from like our conversation, I remember her.
By the way, she listens to every episode.
I know. She loves your podcast. Well, I was giving her a massage, and I remember we were just talking about, she had asked me if I listen to podcasts and what podcasts I might listen to. And I told her that if I do listen to something like this, I like it to be more like nonfiction. Like, I can gain something from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like a book. Like, I like audiobooks, but I would probably pick a podcast over an audiobook because I enjoy reading itself. But, and she was like, well, have you ever thought about being on a podcast? And she was like, because my friend does them, and I'm trying to think of who I would be interested in listening to for an hour or two.
Right,
and she goes, and I just think that you would be one of them.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's so flattering.
Right. First and foremost. It's very
flattering, to be honest. Like, anyone who says that, I told her, I was like, I think that's the nicest thing anyone's ever told me.
That I would love to listen to you speak for over an hour.
I was like, that's so sweet.
That is what's kind of fascinating about this medium. Right? Yeah. Like, the reason why I even do this, like, one, it's so new, it's so booming. I mean, even though it's happening for a while, in like macro sense, is this very new technology and a very new medium that people are doing. And for people to want to listen to anyone speak about things for over an hour, 2 hours plus, like, that's a fascinating thing. Like, what is it about each other that we want to know about? Like, what is it about that insight that's going on over there that I don't know about that makes us want to tune in and just hear what someone has to say? Because that is huge, right? We're podcasting with or without microphones. Like, you and I outside just taking a walk, like, people do this. Now, we also do it at different levels. Like, there are people that, so clearly you said there were no awkward silences on that first date with you and Luke, right? That means that there was probably some time that where the inverse happened, where you spoke to someone at some point in time in your life and it was awkward. Like, you've had to have awkward moments where, like, a guy wanted to, try to proposition you or something, and it just,
for sure,
like, the vibe just wasn't quite there. You might even say the person was dry. That's a thing that people say about people. It gets weird.
Yeah.
So what is it about certain people that we want to hear them talk, right? Like, that's a fascinating thing. Like, I'd love to hear this person talk for over an hour, 2 hours, but this person, like, they just talk. And unfortunately, I don't want to hear much from them. Like, that's a real issue.
I would say it's because they admire the person, but at the same time, whoever's listening to me right now doesn't know me.
Right.
And so they don't know if they like me or not.
Right.
They've never met me. So they're just hearing this person. But you're right. They're interested. They're going to listen to what I have to say for whatever reason. So
that's the fascinating point. Like, what is it about, like, what are the qualities and characteristics? Now, I mean, I know some of them, right? But knowing them and not knowing them, it's, as I said, it doesn't even have to do with podcasting. It has everything to do with, like, the types of friends you're going to be able to, like, garner in your life. Mm-hmm. The types of opportunities you're going to be able to come across in life. Because if I don't want to hear you talk and I have a job for you, there's a good chance I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, I met her. Like, we did the interview. But, like, I can't listen to her talk. Like, I see her. See her resume. Her resume is awesome. Like, her credentials are awesome. But, like, I can't listen to her talk, man. Like, it was like 5 minutes in and I was done. And, like, that's a huge thing. So since I was little, little, it's like a weird thing to look back on now, because like I was an insecure little kid, like to some degree, like I feel like we all are, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some of us more than others. Some of us just have like huge ego. Like as soon as you just grow up with all the confidence in the world.
You just come out of the womb.
So, some people are like
I'm
that.
gonna run the world.
Some people are truly like that, but that wasn't me. And so the way that I had to deal with a lot of things was I knew that I wanted human beings to like me. Like I knew that at a very, very early age. And so I was an observer at a young age, trying to figure out, I'm just looking around. I'm talking about from the 5 years old,
Right.
looking around thinking like, what is this person doing? Like, okay, they just did this and they got a laugh.
Aww.
Like, okay. So like that type of thing is indicative of a charming person. Like now, clearly it's not this sophisticated. Like I'm not using these words and stuff like that. But as I'm growing up, I'm looking at people and I'm studying very keenly what is charismatic, what is not, what is funny, what is not, like what is acceptable, what is not, all these different things, because I'm clearly trying to fill some sort of void, right? Because I want people to like me.
Yeah.
And so then I get into communications, interpersonal communications, public speaking, all this type of stuff. And I'm just absorbing so much information about it all, because I need to know what makes the difference between the person that you want to listen to and the person that you don't. When they speak, you're just like, please, oh my God, like who invited Earl? Like, God, man, like this would have been, because you don't want to be like, hey man, listen, like we're gonna do this thing on Friday night, like everybody's gonna be there, it's gonna be super awesome, but like don't fucking invite Earl, like don't tell Rachel about it, please don't let Rachel know, just don't let her know. I know you like her and like she's really cool, like we like her too, it's just, come on man, like we don't want to be around her for that long.
I don't know. I don't think that it has to do with just the way that they talk. Well,
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely not.
at that point, I feel like it's got to be a deeper, like, it's just how they think, how they perceive things, because you
Right.
project that when you talk. So I feel
Exactly.
like that it's more of like a moral and
Okay, ethical.
yeah, I think that
Yeah.
at that point it kind of sounds more like that than just
Right. And so here's the thing. So you're saying, well, maybe people don't want to listen to me, right? Or your first premise is incorrect. You proved it incorrect, which is they like me, right? Like they adore this person. You're like, oh, well, the people listening to this don't know me. But the more and more you speak, the more we get to know you.
very
And
true.
it's just like you walking around and trying to figure out if this person is quote unquote dirty or not. or if they're gonna be cool and you can be around them. It's like you're listening to not just the words they're using, but you're listening to the tone of voice. Like, do they sound pleasant? Right? Like, like they're hearing you, and the people that want to watch it will be viewing you, and they're like, what? Like, does she look like she's listening? Because a person that looks like they're listening is a pleasant person, is a more pleasant person than a person that doesn't look like they're listening. Right? Like, what's her tone of voice sound like? Does she sound like she's being honest? So then you're starting to put together all these different pieces. And again, at the end of this, will they know you? No, they won't know you, but they'll have some sort of idea.
Know a piece of you.
Exactly. They'll know whatever it is you decide to present to them.
Right. I feel like it has a lot to do with like where you meet the person, the place that you talk to them the most. Is
Yeah.
it at work, or is it with friends,
Yeah.
or at church, or at school?
Yeah.
Because people act differently in different
We've talked about
environments.
we've already we've known each other for like 30 minutes and we've already talked about this. We've already touched on this.
It's a huge thing. I think about it a lot. I've talked about
How so?
So I'm a Christian,
Yeah.
and so in the Christian
Doctrine.
yes, well, just like community,
Okay.
it's a huge thing. People who are not Christians think a lot of Christians are hypocrites. It's a huge thing. And Christians within the Christian church will think each other are being hypocrites.
Okay.
And it's just this line of following God's law and wanting to live a life that you're happy in, right? And I think growing up, I was also very observant. I'm the youngest in my family.
Oh.
So there's 4 of us kids.
Okay.
So you just observe. That's all you got, right? So you just observe your older siblings. You observe their friends, what happens when they do certain things with their friends. Like, you observe.
Yeah.
And so I think something that I fixated on a lot growing up was I love Christ, so I want to follow him. And that's something that I have a hard time witnessing because to me that's so personal. My relationship with him, that is. And, but at the same time, I do love, like going out and having fun. And I love dancing. That's my big thing. I would go out all the time. Once I was 21, that was it. Me and my sister were always out every weekend.
Dancing.
And, so there's this fine line where, like, you know, people at the church see you do certain things.
Yeah.
But then you go to church every Sunday.
Right.
So then it's like you feel like a hypocrite. Maybe because people said it. Maybe because you just know that how other people have perceived other people in the past.
Yeah.
So growing up, that was like a huge theme, I feel like, that I would just observe.
Yeah.
And so it's always, and I had a talk with my mom about that too. Because I dress a certain way that some Christians wouldn't say was, I guess, proper because you want to be modest. You don't want to provoke.
Right.
But at the same time,
tempt.
Yes. But at the same time, I think that, I don't know. I don't look at it like that. Like, I love clothes. And
I love clothes.
And I'm content with myself. So
yeah.
I'm not scared to wear certain things that maybe someone else would. And
when you say you love clothes, it just means you just love just trying out new things.
I do. So my sister actually gave me a new bag of clothes the other day, and I was so excited because, you know, what's old to someone is new to you. So it was like I just went shopping for free.
Yeah, very nice.
I was so excited. But like things like that make you excited. You actually feel like going out when you have some pretty things.
Yeah, no, I completely get that.
And some people, it's like shoes. You know, like everyone's got their thing. But I love clothes. But, and I don't get to wear my own very often because I'm always in a uniform for work.
Yeah.
Or I'm at the gym.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I live
so
in
then
leggings.
you get to bust out and then like express yourself through clothing.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because you're always in uniform somewhere.
Yeah.
I get that. I definitely get that.
But anyway, so that was kind of like growing up, I think something I definitely fixated on was I don't want to be a hypocrite. I love Christ, but I want to live my life and like do this stuff. So it's a hard thing. It's a hard, and
I think it's harder than you're even explaining it to be honest with you.
It is.
I think that what's funny is we can just move outside the realm of just like the Christian doctrine. I feel like I don't know if you can be a human and not be a hypocrite at the same time.
I think it's impossible.
Like this, because the things that you espouse, right? Some of them are a lot of things that you actually do and like you practice what you preach like on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. But you're never perfect. So that means that really a lot of the things that you're espousing, you're expressing are really they're really aspirations. You're really, when you speak about things that you want to be and the way that you want to act, you're really just talking about how you see your highest self. And so you're like, another way of putting it is, if I was perfect all the time, then this is what I would do. Right? Like that's really what it is you say when you're like, oh, well, I'm this type of person, or I like to do that. It's like, yeah, you are, but you're also a lot of other things. Like you're so complex. You're human.
Yeah.
You're so complex. So people look at you, and this is super superficial. People look at you and they're like, all right, well, she's in the church, but she's wearing those clothes. And their mind is already fucked up. Like now their mind is already like tossing and turning.
Yeah.
And it's like you're getting hung up on super superficial stuff. We haven't even gotten into the depths of who she is and what she believes and who she's trying to be, who she sees her future self with, what the nitty gritty of all of her internetworking is with all of her community, being friends, family, Luke, all these different, strangers, the clients that you have. We don't even know anything about that. And they're already getting hung up on, oh, but she's wearing this and she goes to church. Mm-hmm. If you're getting hung up there, you'll never understand the complexity of anyone. Like you won't get anywhere because you that's ridiculous. Like that's ridiculous. Like we're so intricate. We're so complex. There's so much going on. So you just gotta, you see somebody saying something like, they're giving advice to someone. Yeah, I really feel like you should fucking leave that guy. That guy's terrible. Like, you should definitely leave that guy. That guy's terrible. He doesn't treat you right. Like, every time we go out with him, he's like constantly hitting on me. Like, he's just like, there's a bunch of stuff going on. But then that person giving that advice ends up in a relationship very similar to it or something like that. There's just plenty of things that you see externally and the advice that you would give someone else, you just don't always take. That's just life. Like, you're not always going to be in the best mental, emotional state to make all of the best decisions you possibly can at every single moment of your life. So therefore, you're going to be a hypocrite. Like, you could, because you aspire to be better, but you're not always going to live up to that. And so that's just gonna be the case. Now, I think some people are worse than others. Like, there's still a scale here.
Yeah.
My friend and I were actually talking about this the other day, and I thought that this was just like genius. If more people looked at themselves as a series of people as opposed to one person, meaning if you were about to make a decision and then you could just contemplate, a week in the future, Rachel, jumping through a portal and being like, hey, so I see you're about to make this decision right now. You don't have to deal with it, but I do. So could you not do that thing? If you thought about it like that, then you would you'd be looking at another being and be like, oh, damn, I don't want to fuck them over like that. Like, I don't want to make life harder for them. You're not looking at it as though it's yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you could look at yourself 5 years from now and that person came over to you, like, what would the things that 5 years in the future Rachel would be saying to you now? Like, hey, let's tighten it up. I don't know whatever issues are that are going on in your life right now, but whatever it is, let's figure it out. Because I have to deal with it 5 years from now. Like, I have to be the one to deal with it, not you. Because you're not going to be me. I'm going to be a whole different person that you can't even fathom right now. So you don't have to deal with it. I do. So let's make this decision better. Right now, please. Right. And then they hop back in their portal and they go away.
That would be really nice.
It'd be a nice way to just like conceptualize making decisions in the future.
For sure. Like, I think if it's involving someone else, since we can't have our future selves come back and tell us, hey, you're about to make a mistake, there's always sorry.
Yeah.
There's for sure always sorry. Yeah, you can't really redo things.
No.
But you can, if you know that it's wrong, you can apologize. But I think if it's you and yourself, I don't know. For me, I honestly, I already know 5 years in the future, Rachel would come back and be like, you should really try harder in school. Or you should really,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I get really distracted with
okay.
school. I was supposed
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so today I was going to do school.
And here we are recording a fucking podcast.
I know. But
oh, no.
It's just like my days just run away from me. And since it's not like I don't sit in a building, I do it online at home.
Yeah,
So it's really up to me.
What are you taking?
So I do some continuing education courses for my massage therapist license.
Okay.
But then I'm also for the chiropractor office that I work at. My doctor asked me to take a personal trainer's course. So I'm in the middle of that so that I can help patients with exercises. He wanted me to do it, but I was like, I want to be qualified. I feel really underqualified to do this.
That's very humble of you.
Well, it's just, I love working out. I actually, I started when I was 18 because of Nova. Nova made me take a PE class, and then I just really liked it. So I stuck with it. So here I am, like 6 years later.
Yeah. I remember that. I went to Nova, but I didn't take enough classes to get around to PE. I just took all the classes I wanted to and left.
See, that was I was like in my first semester. I was like, let me do this one.
PE.
And then here I am.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. So I love working out, but I am not knowledgeable enough for someone who's older, has diabetes, might have no no like base knowledge of stretching or warming up even, and they want to lift weights, I would want to help them, and I just didn't feel qualified to just throw them in there.
Yeah,
so
I feel you. Yeah,
that's a big thing. You can hurt people.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure I did it right, and I was like, let me take a course.
Could you imagine the shame and guilt?
Oh no,
just like
I don't
being
want
like
to.
just walking in there without a certification. You'd be like, yeah, go ahead, pick up that weight real quick. Come on, man, push it.
Well, sometimes I feel like, so my patients will come get adjusted after like a physical therapist session. They'll be with their physical therapist, and they come in and they're like, I don't know, my physical therapist made me pick up this weight, and I was doing all these chest presses, and now I'm really, really sore, and I think I pulled something. And I'm like, so like, what weight were they having you do? And they were like 15. And I'm like, so do you work out? They're like, no. And I was like, well, maybe they should like give you, I don't know, 5s,
like,
10s.
Yeah, maybe those little 2.5s.
Maybe just start with bands. Like, don't even go to weights.
Maybe just start with nothing. Just get the motions down.
The motions, yeah. So I don't know. Some people, I think it's good. The human body is incredible, and it's definitely capable of so much. But you from birth, we live a certain lifestyle, and until we realize that we're not healthy, we should probably, when we reach that point where we're like, we're really not healthy, we need to change that. It takes a lot of time and effort, and way more than I think most people realize, to actually counteract what you've been doing to your body for so many years. Yeah. So you don't just throw yourself into it, for sure. Yeah,
you have a whole groove you've been doing for so long.
Yeah.
I have friends that just, like, their parents, they didn't care. They didn't know. That's probably a better way of saying it, is they just didn't know. Oh man,
that is the better way to say it, because that
is what it is. Like, they just don't know any better. And so in particular, I have a friend that is just super upset because she's just started her fitness journey not too long ago, and she's like gung ho about it. Like, she's getting to it, which is awesome. And like, her parents just like fed her Cheese Whiz sandwiches growing up. Cheese Whiz, you know what I mean? And just,
I didn't even like the taste of that stuff growing up.
Yeah, it's like just Cheese Whiz sandwiches, and just like bags of M&Ms, like whenever she want. Sometimes she didn't even ask for it. She would just come home and there'd just be like a bag of M&Ms like on her bed. Like, she just walk in the room and just candy and food. And anytime she said something was difficult, like she wanted to go out for sports. So she would go out for sports. Like, I think she tried like 3 or 4 or 5 of them, but every time she'd be like, "Oh man, like, it's kind of difficult," and they'd be like, "Oh, if it's difficult, just stop. Don't do it. Like, if it's difficult, don't do anything. Like, just sit at home and eat this bag. Here, I got a Cheese Whiz sandwich for you right here, and a bag of M&Ms. Right, sit down.
Oh boy,
watch TV with me." And she's like looking back at it now. I was like, "Fuck, man. Like, I was like 20 some odd years, where like I wasn't doing anything physical." Like, my body was sedentary for like 25 years. Like, this is crazy. I'm like, yeah, man, like, that kind of sucks. Like, so we had to, go through this discussion of, they're not terrible people. They just didn't know. And what they were doing was just like a form of love. Like, have M&Ms and fucking Cheese Whiz sandwiches because that's what you like, and don't do it if it's hard. They don't know that that's crippling.
They're just like, they just didn't want to push her.
They didn't want to. Exactly. Like,
we love you.
We love you. Exactly. We love you. We love you. Here, don't hurt yourself. Don't play too hard. Don't run. Don't exercise if you sweat and you don't like sweat. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little too much, and they didn't know. So yeah, it's a lot to try to work backwards after so many years. For some people, it's just so difficult. Yeah. It's so difficult. So that's awesome that so what made you want to get into physical therapy, like of this sort?
So I don't do physical therapy, but I went to massage therapy school.
It's so funny that those are just like 2 completely different things, because I'm thinking the physical, and I know that you said massage therapy, so I'm thinking that would be underneath the umbrella, but I guess it's its own. A lot of massage therapists go back to school to be physical therapists, so it does kind of work that way a lot of the time. Okay. But I went to school for massage therapy. I didn't really have a reason other than I had a lot of anxiety and depression at the time, and I needed a distraction.
So I wanted to go to school, and I had this friend that for like 3 or 4 years, we were lifting together, and she was telling me, oh my gosh, you'd be such a great massage therapist, because she was one. And she was like, I just feel like your personality, like people would really be able to connect with you. And I was lifting a lot, and I loved learning about the body and how to be healthy, but I had no idea where to start. I had no baseline. It just seemed overwhelming at the time.
Yeah.
Because once you start being healthier, it's like, it's never enough almost.
Right.
It can be.
There's always another step. Like,
Yeah. But at the time, something had happened, and I just felt really low, and I was like, I need a distraction. So I just up and did it. I just applied for school. I went on a tour for it, and I just did it. Honestly, I've never done anything like that before, but I needed it at the time. So I did it. It was very hard. It was a 7-month accelerated program. So typically massage therapy school will be 9 months because you need 900 hours to graduate.
Wow.
So we did the 900 hours in 7 months.
Wow.
And it was night school, and I was working at Starbucks at the time. So I was opening at Starbucks, napping, going to school, napping, going to Starbucks, napping.
Damn.
And that was my schedule for about 7 months. I don't remember.
Is that where the caffeine hit your life? Did you, like, just working at Starbucks?
Oh my gosh, the worst part about it was, well, yes, originally working at Starbucks, like you can have unlimited, so you're just throwing it down.
It is.
During that time of massage school, my anxiety got so bad, I stopped drinking caffeine. So it was like, I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was working, going to school, and I couldn't drink caffeine.
So the anxiety got so bad that, like, caffeine would do nothing but exacerbate.
My heart rate would go up to the point where I don't think I was having panic attacks necessarily, but I just, my brain wouldn't shut down. My heart rate would accelerate. So it just got kind of scary at times, just for no reason, really. I had a lot that I was dealing with, but it didn't seem like in the moments my heart rate would go up that I was even thinking about that. It just seemed like it would just happen.
Oh yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, no,
because then you don't know exactly how to address it.
It's like, what am I thinking about this without knowing I'm thinking about it?
Oh wow, that's a mindfuck.
Yeah. So it's like a subconscious thing,
right?
And it's like that part doesn't turn off.
How do I get to there?
So I just nipped it. So I stopped drinking caffeine too. And my poor sister, I was living with her at the time. She's just watching me go through all this. And she's like, okay, are you okay? She's checking in on me every day. She's like, okay, what's going on? Because school was something. But I did graduate, very thankful.
Congratulations.
I was the last class to graduate before COVID shut down the school. So even more of a blessing right there.
So you graduated in like what month?
It was March.
Oh!
Yeah.
That's like right there.
Like 2 weeks, I think, before everything shut down. Yeah, so how it happened was the week I graduated, I also took, they call it the NBLEX. It's like the nursing exam you take to get your license. And I actually failed my first time. And then 2 weeks later, everything shut down. So the testing center shut down, everything. So I was so discouraged. And I was working at Starbucks, and I was getting burnt out. I could just feel it. And a friend of mine, the next summer that summer, because it was March at the time. So that summer, I was like, I wish I could, practice. But massage therapists weren't even allowed to practice during COVID. Their license were actually being taken from them if they were caught, which seemed aggressive to me, but
I'm certain a lot of people got their stuff revoked. And now, that makes a lot of sense. Trying to do stuff like on the low.
Yes. Yeah, because they didn't want people to contact other people.
Right,
it was a kind of a dark time. People need people, so you shouldn't do that.
For sure.
But I had a friend, and he was a patient at the office, the chiropractor's office that I work at now, actually. And he said that his doctor was looking for CAs, chiropractic assistants. And he was like, yeah, they do like a form of soft tissue. I don't know if you need a certification or anything for it, but you can contact him. So he gave me his info, and I contacted him. Had an interview. I had never been to a chiropractor's office before.
Oh yeah.
So
I still haven't.
So it's not something that, if you're not told that you should, or told like what it's about and what they believe, you just wouldn't think about it.
Right.
You really wouldn't.
Yeah.
I never did. It's funny, growing up, I said I would never probably be a massage therapist. I just thought it would be boring. Here I am doing that. And then during massage school, I said I'd probably never work at a chiropractor's office because I don't know if I want to go the medical route. I just want to help people with stress. Yeah. And then I'm at an interview for a chiropractor's office. That's so
funny to even say I would never be a massage therapist. I don't think like most people would even be thinking about.
Well, so my aunt was a massage therapist, and she worked from her home, and I had never seen anyone get a massage except for like in a movie. I'd never gotten one from her.
Wow.
But the thought of it was like, that just seems really boring. And I remember as like, I must have been like 8 or 9, like I was a kid, and I remember thinking that.
Were you and your aunt close?
No, not particularly.
Okay, because I was wondering, like, she never, tried to, offer him up? Like, hey.
No, she never did. I mean, well, actually, I think there was either a birthday or it was because I graduated. I think it was a birthday. She did offer to give me a massage, but at that point, we weren't very close at all. So, and I never really quite found the time, to be honest. I had just moved out, and it was a lot. But, what was I thinking? What was I saying?
Well, you never thought that you would be a massage therapist nor work at a chiropractor's office.
Right. And then I forgot why I traveled off. But
while you had gotten there.
Well, anyways, yeah. So I never thought I would do that. Yeah. But I got the interview, and he actually adjusted me for my very first time at my interview because he was like, I would love to keep you or give you the opportunity to get on the team, but you need to know what we're here to do. Mm-hmm. And so he explained chiropractic care in his way and then gave me my first adjustment. And I laughed so hard. He cracked my neck and all that came out was this huge laugh. And I didn't know why, but he said it was a release of emotion.
Yo,
this
is deep.
Yeah, no, he said that people.
This is deep.
He said he's adjusted people for the first time, and they've cried, they've laughed, they've been scared, or it's just a release wherever you're at.
Yeah.
And I laughed. I don't know what that says about me, but I laugh at a lot of things. But
yeah, I could definitely see myself laughing.
I could definitely see you laughing.
I could definitely see
now that I've worked there for a couple years, you would be the laugher.
I'm a laugher.
For sure, you're a laugher.
I get that, but I almost now I don't know again what these points of tension mean and what they're saying in regards to what emotion someone is letting out. But I would think right now, just based on what you said, that I would be laughing because I would probably just be in awe of the art of it, just the fact that they're even doing this and it's just so seamless to them. That would make me laugh. People being really good at things is funny to me. When someone's just really good at something and they can just do something that's magic to me because I don't know how to do that thing. That's funny to me. It's how did you're so good at this thing? That's hilarious. And the fact that I immediately feel relief or something like that, that's hilarious because it's you're going through life. Here's where the comedy is in it. You're walking through life with all this tension and all this pain and hurt and suffering. And you just, for some reason or another, you walk into an office and the guy's like, yeah, come over here real quick. Oh, that thing I've been walking around with for years is gone. This pain and suffering. And that's really just a microcosm of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
This pain that I've been walking around with, internal, external, whatever, it could be fixed very easily if only I had the tools. If only I knew what the issue was and how to address it, I could be suffering free. I could get rid of my inner turmoils if I was just a chiropractor for the soul. Right? Which people would just say is a therapist. Right? I just got ways of throwing stuff together. You know? Yeah, but if I knew how to address these things, so that's sort of the comedy in it. It's you don't have to feel that way. You can just come over here and let me crack you up, give you a massage.
The thing is, yeah, you're right. It's not just one thing.
Oh yeah, it's tons.
So the first thing is just us, right? Our bodies were created to be healthy. They were created to be healthy. It's just our lifestyles and what we've put into it and what we've done to our bodies that actually make it unhealthy. And I think that line has been blurred, especially with COVID, because, it should be am I healthy or unhealthy? But I feel it's really, am I sick or am I not sick? Like, people really are like, I'm healthy as long as I'm not sick.
That's wild.
I hear that a lot at my office.
That's
they're like,
wild.
well, I haven't been sick in a long time. Like, I'm taking my multivitamin and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay,
Well,
okay. That's great.
start.
No, I was like, that's awesome. I was like, but how do you feel? And they're like, I don't know, like, I just have so much pain, and it's all in my shoulders and my neck, and I just get these headaches, and I can't sleep at night. And then you're like, okay, so do you have anxiety, or do you have a lot on your mind? Do you sit all day at a desk for work? Like, there is so much that goes into it, and it's just not one thing. There's not one thing that fixes it all. But I do, now that I have worked at a chiropractor's office for so long, and I'm careful when I say this just because I know that there's always two ends to it, right? There's offices that I'm sure are just about the numbers and the money, because chiropractors can make a lot of money.
Certainly.
Obviously, they're doctors.
Right.
But then there are chiropractors out there that are truly about like the health and wellness aspect of it, where they care about their patients and they bring their patients on as part of their family in this mission of making the world a healthier place. And those are the chiropractors that I think are awesome people. Like, I love it. And, the idea of chiropractic care, like, you have a nervous system, right? And it controls almost everything in our body. And it's encased in our spine, our vertebrae. And all of this keeps it safe. But when you're stressed, or when you put toxins into your body, or when you have a job that just kind of wrecks your body, all these things can cause what they call subluxations.
So, one more time?
Subluxation.
Subluxation.
So it's a dislocation of your vertebrae. So essentially your vertebrae are all lined up, and then one of them is out.
Okay.
And that cuts off that nerve circulation. And when it does that, that's when you start feeling all these symptoms. So symptoms aren't necessarily like what you need to get rid of. They're more like body signals. I actually like symptoms. I think that they're kind of cool because the patient's able to tell me what they're feeling, so that we know that if they have a subluxation or not. Most of your symptoms are caused by that.
Okay.
And so you find a chiropractor, they adjust you, they put you back into alignment, and then these symptoms start to fade away. Not all at once, and maybe not immediately, but they begin to. And so I think that it's a base work for being healthy.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, that's when you add in like supplements, nutrition, exercise, whatever you need, like faith-wise. I think faith has a huge thing to do with people's health too. You know, because everyone believes in something.
Okay.
Atheists believe in nothing. They still believe in something.
Yeah.
The fact that there's nothing. So it just, I don't know, I feel like all of that combined is what makes you healthy.
Yeah. There's something else, another thing I was talking to my friend about, the same one that we talked about, the portals, right? Like your future self you're jumping in, is there's something, this world is just so wild, man. Anytime I get to thinking about something, like my mind explodes. But because you're talking about alignment of your spine, right? And this subluxation that takes you out of alignment. Well, I mean, that is literally that. But then figuratively takes you out of alignment with oneself, and you start to feel these symptoms, which again is a good thing to have. Like, you definitely want that. You definitely want to be able to touch something and feel that it's hot and say, oh, okay, I don't want to touch that anymore. So symptoms are great. Yeah. Right? It's great to have a signal to let you know I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't do that, or this hurts, so maybe I should do this thing, right? In order to counteract it. There's something very deep about alignment. There's something deep about this, which is why I thought it was fascinating that you put faith on the end of that, not necessarily at the end, meaning it's the last important, but just at the end of the list there, that you said
just that it was involved.
Exactly, that it is involved in the alignment. Because we don't know. I've taken some music theory. I definitely completely copied and pasted the final exam. And I got an A on it too. I don't know what that woman was doing. I don't know how I got an A on it. She clearly did not, it was ridiculous. Like, I didn't even take the hyperlinks out. Like, I just clicked and dragged all of Wikipedia.
She just wanted you out
of
the class.
And just, it was probably. That's probably exactly what it was. Anywho, there's something deep about music. in that when we listen to music, even though we all like all different sorts of music, there's something about things coming in harmony. And even when things are in like a weird dissonance or like there's distortion, there's like a beautiful way in which that can be done in a harmonious way. But there's something about harmony that we just like, that just resonates with us. And we just click to it. Like we want to hear more. And when anyone or anything we feel like it's centered or has alignment, you know what I mean? And it's balanced. We feel drawn to it. So I think that's like, even just people, again, as it comes to communication, it's not just the words that are being said, but when you're listening to someone, sometimes you ought to be able to tell sometimes when you're talking to people, this person seems a little off keel. Like they seem a little shaky, a little shifty, a little shady. Like they seem like there's a lot going on and they don't have control of it. Right. And so sometimes that can sway whether not, your judgment of them, but the judgment of whether you would like to spend more time around them or not. Because you might just be like, well, you know what? Not for me right now, because I got my own stuff going on. I can't take this on right now. And then sometimes you come across people and they seem like their alignment is together. It seems like their chakras, whatever, their balance. It just seems like, or you can just say they seem even keeled. Yeah. They seem zen. They seem well put together, good head on their shoulders. However you want to spin it, it seems like, wow, they just seem like together. I'm sure they're not perfect. I'm sure they don't just have everything blueprinted and, out, but they seem like they're together.
Yeah.
Like that's a nice start, right? And so there's something really, really deep about alignment in things with us and just the external things that we see that we just feel, that we gravitate towards. And so when you talk about these different plateaus of health, I think you're right. I think it's super fucking important. And I think that I rarely hear people talk about, because some people get trapped in like a bubble and they work out really hard, but then they like never stretch.
Oh, goodness,
right.
Yeah.
Or they're just right. Or I'm certain there are people that do they go to the chiropractor, they get massages, but they don't do any of the others. Or they stretch and they work out and they eat decently, but then they get super blasted drunk like 3 to 4 nights out the week and whatever else. And then when that happens, then they also eat a bunch of chili dogs and greasy food because you're drunk, and a lot of time that just tastes great when you're drunk.
You just need something to soak it up.
Exactly. So, which by the way doesn't work. You got to eat the stuff first. You can't just throw it down there.
You guys know.
Yeah, it doesn't actually work that way. I had a safe serve certification at one point in time for serving drinks. But I'm nobody special. Please don't. So yeah, I'm really glad that you bring that up, because as you said, it can be daunting getting into the field because you're looking up at the mountaintop and you're just like, bro, I can't do all of this. Like it just seems like there's no end. But once you get in it, it's rewarding too, because you realize you're doing some stuff and it's great, and you feel whatever relief you get from doing that thing. I know for me, it was yoga. Like yoga was huge for me. And when I started doing what is called yin yoga and just started sitting in long 5-minute stretches at a time before you move to the next one, 5-minute stretch, move to the next one.
I heard you talking about that in one of the podcasts. And I think that is...
Oh, gosh.
No, seriously.
I've never slept like this in my life.
I love that for you. I really
actually
do.
Since I was a child. I woke up one morning, and then ever since then, there's been months now, I wake up and I'm like, I remember this sleep. Like I haven't had this since I was a teenager, but I remember this. It's wild. I took like a 10 or 11 year hiatus from having this type of sleep that I have now. And it's so absolutely wild. I was like, oh my God, I remember. I dream every night vividly. And it just feels great the whole time. I can just sleep on my back. I don't have to toss and turn. And that's
incredible.
I'm just out, and I wake up and I'm like, oh God, that was so good. And I feel like I'm at 100%. But the whole point of what we're talking about is you never know when you're at 100%, because it's sort of like when your phone battery starts to die. Like when your phone battery gets old over time, your 100% is now really like 70%. Because you haven't done the things that you need to do in order to really hike up the capacity of your 100%. So your 100% is 70%. So you think you feel great. You're like, how could my life be any better? Like, how could I feel any better? Then you do something else. You tack on another pillar of this health system that you're talking about, this health hierarchy, and you tag something on. And then now your 100% is really 80%. You've done something else and it's opened up more of your capacity for your recharge, your battery. And then you're like, oh my God, well, I thought I was at 100% before. Like, it's incredible. What is going on? Like, how am I getting more energy?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? And then you tack something else on. You know, and there's just, like you said, there's just more and more to find out about how to make yourself healthier and feel better. And there's so many different, I mean, it gets emotional. It's mental,
sure.
You know, clearly we're talking about all the physiological stuff, but we're also, since we know it's all connected, we're talking about the mental stuff as well. Like it's all connected. But the more and more you figure out, oh my gosh, you just like, wait, I don't know.
It's eye-opening, yeah.
It is.
But it gives you also a lot of things that we experienced as a kid, like that pure form of sleep that we haven't felt in years. A lot of us don't remember that. Like you've now like
unlocked,
remembered it. Yeah, like you can remember it, but some people don't even remember that they ever had it.
Yeah.
So it is like, and 100% can look different for a lot of people. I know with a lot of patients it's a lot of encouragement emotionally just because they get so discouraged. I've gotten so discouraged so many times throughout this journey of finding out like what's healthy for me.
What usually knocks you out? Like what takes you out of being encouraged to do it? Like
it's
what takes you off the path?
Me, it's like, so hormones are a huge part. The endocrine system in human...
One more time, I'm sorry.
So sorry. Endocrine system.
Endocrine. Okay, like, so listen. So I don't want you to think that I'm smart at all.
No, well, you are smart, first off.
I'm just listening.
I'm just, like, these are fresh in my mind because, like I said, I've been doing that personal trainer's course.
Yes,
and so, like, these words just keep popping in. I'm trying to...
Endocrine.
You know, the more you use them, the more you remember them.
Yes,
so it's good for the exam.
Sure. Yes.
But, so hormones are a huge part of just how we function as humans, and especially with women, that can be they can, you know, go up and down a lot, especially around women's periods. And so I've always struggled with that. I didn't know that this was a thing, but there is something called PMDD for women. Okay. It's premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Mm-hmm. And that means
dysphoric. Whoa.
Yes, yeah. So basically, a woman has her PMS symptoms, but they're heightened and they're worse, and it can last longer. So it's literally like some women are suffering from PMS symptoms more than just being themselves. So like over 2 weeks. So for a while I was suffering from this to where I was having PMS like symptoms for almost half a month, every month. And it's so discouraging because you're like, okay, I'm exercising. They say that, you know, that makes your anxiety go away, helps with depression, you know.
Boost your endorphins.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I'm eating good things, but I mean, gosh, I do have a sweet tooth, so I love chocolate, but you know, like, it's hard to.
I'm so sorry. What's your favorite chocolate? Like, what do you do? Like Butterfingers, Reese's?
No,
what are you talking about?
I love just
Kit
like
Kat? Oh, just like
dark chocolate.
Just dark chocolate.
With
like Ghirardelli.
Yes, but like with like raspberry or orange peel is like really good.
Oh, with orange
but I
peel.
also like mint. I don't know.
Okay.
It depends on what my mood is.
Okay. I didn't mean to throw you off.
No, that's okay. I love talking about chocolate. To be honest, I could do it a lot.
All right, so we'll come back to that.
Makes me happy.
All right, so we will come back to that. All right,
so it's like you keep adding on things that, you know, people tell you advice. Older women, I love talking to older women because they've been around the corner. They know how, like what helped them. So I take a little bit of what everyone's got to throw at me. Just to try to see what can help. And it's also hard because a lot of things, you know, it takes about 120 days to break a bad habit. And therefore, it takes about that amount of time for you to try one thing and see if it actually works. So say you're on like a whole supplement regimen, you might not even know that works until like 3 months later, and it's so exhausting. And it feels like it takes so much time, so people do quit before they get to the end.
For
a lot.
sure. 1,000%.
A lot. And I completely understand, and it's so hard to talk with patients because I can almost see it now after just like 2 years of being with someone. Like you can just tell when they're
like the
at
breaking
that
point.
Yeah, at that point where that they're going to stop coming into the office.
Oh, they're hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, they're hanging on by a thread. They don't believe in chiropractic care anymore because it's not solving all their problems. They start to get frustrated, but it's so much more than just getting adjusted. I believe in adjustments. I think it's so great for that base portion of health.
Yeah,
but
infrastructure.
Exactly. But at the same time, I'm there as a chiropractic assistant to help these people, encourage them and help them understand that there's things that they can do on their own. People can't do it for you. You're your own hero. So it's all up to you. But there are people out there that can help you. Like if I could, eventually I want to see a nutritionalist. Like I'm super excited about that. I think that nutrition is so important. It helps everything balance. Mm-hmm. What we put into our bodies is meant to help us thrive, but a lot of times, you gotta have that burger and fries or extra chocolate,
that mint dark chocolate, raspberry orange peel mix, baby.
And dark chocolate really isn't bad for you. I actually think it's super good for you.
I think I've heard this before. Yeah.
I just feel like
within moderation, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's very easy to get discouraged.
That's how people get away with red wine. They're like, a glass of red wine a day is good for the heart. I don't know any science behind this, but I've heard this trickle down generation to generation.
But they all giggle after they say that. Like everyone does. They're like, this is good for you. And then they do it. I don't know anyone who still says that with a straight face.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious because I think people really believe that.
Oh.
News to me. Yeah, I know. It's a real thing.
Well, you know what? It is funny. I had a patient come in, and this isn't funny, but it was kind of just like I didn't expect him to say this to me. But he came in, and he was in so much pain because he works with concrete. And so he's just lifting heavy concrete, or he's at landscape places. Right. I don't know everything that he does. Construction sites, yes. And he's laying down this concrete. So it's a very physical job. And he's been in a lot of pain for a long time. So he finally, his wife had been pushing him to come to a chiropractor. So he came. He's like, and I was like, well, I'm glad you were able to come in today. And he was like, yeah, well, alcohol only goes so far. He was like, I was like, oh.
No, that is funny.
No, because it's true. People really do.
Yeah, alcohol doesn't just numb the emotional pain. It numbs pain.
You can't feel it.
People wasn't that the way people used to do things back in the day?
Absolutely.
You just pour some alcohol on a gas you had and
you took a swig and then you poured it on there and then they fixed it up for
whatever
you.
It is, yeah.
At least that's what the movies say.
I think that's what was going on. When someone had to realign, put your arm back in your socket or saw amputate people. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was definitely a thing. I think that back in, I don't know what war, but back in the day, I'm pretty certain that when people knew that they had to get amputated, they were definitely like, yo, take this bottle.
Civil War,
ahead. Yeah, exactly.
World War I.
And just downing it.
All of it.
Are you kidding me? Pouring it on the wound, drinking it. Because I want to be as drunk as possible. If you're telling me you're about to take that saw right there and chop my leg.
I can't even imagine. Have you ever seen Gods and Generals?
No.
It's about Stonewall Jackson and Robert E. Lee.
Okay.
It was such a great movie, but it was based in the Civil War, and so obviously they didn't have a whole lot to
work with.
Yes, and so they're just and I don't know, that part's always a little hard. Gone with the Wind is a crazy one too, because you'll see mass amounts of people in one of the scenes and they're all suffering and they can't get any morphine or anything, and
Did you see the first Saw?
Oh, no.
Like,
No.
Saw, like, that was the film. Like, yeah, man, yeah.
Like, less about war, more about psychopaths.
About an actual Saw. Yeah, man, it's crazy, but that's the way that people are definitely doing it, is just pouring alcohol on it and just drinking alcohol and just hoping that numbs everything. But yeah, that's how a lot of people get through life.
Yeah, that and ibuprofen, Tylenol.
Oh, yeah.
Pharmaceuticals are a huge thing now. We push pharmaceuticals like no other country.
See, I didn't grow up in a household like that. Like, it wasn't always just here, pop this pill. Like that wasn't our immediate, resolution for things. Like, that's not how we tried to.
I don't know. I mean, there's definitely pains too where medicine, you're very thankful for it, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, day to day, I think the ones that I feel the worst for are the patients that are used to popping like ibuprofen every time they have a headache or something. I'm like, because some people have headaches daily.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Yeah, and you're like, so are you drinking water? They're like, oh yeah, tons. I'm like, okay, so you're getting adjusted, you're drinking water. I'm like, are you stretching? Yeah, every day. And it just seems like they're doing everything and they just still have these headaches. And so at that point, I'm just like, what are you thinking about? What is it do you like your job? Or, because a lot of times I do think that, it turned out that this person that I'm actually thinking about was on the phone all day. So that's
really?
Yeah,
that's
so
funny.
I do feel like that did it. But
it must be so draining being a health professional of any kind, because one, you're going off of the word of the person. Because I hear you saying it seems like they're doing all the right things, but they could easily be lying. Like, people lie. People lie all the time because they want you to think that they're doing the things that you told them to go home and do. But if you can
tell that they're lying, God forbid you actually say that, because that is a whole other thing.
Yeah, for sure. But like, you're definitely lying to me right now. Now you got to go through this. Like, no, I'm not. No, yes, you're definitely lying. Like, oh, really? So you're calling me a liar? Yeah, Yeah, I'm certain that's
coming back here.
Yeah, I'm certain like that's definitely nothing you want to go through in there. But yeah, you have to go based off of what it is they're telling you, and that's so rough. I remember I had like a nurse friend. I think he got out of that business. Now he's like a wedding photographer. It's hilarious. But anyway, he was a nurse, and he was saying most of the reasons why people, there was a much more eloquent way of putting this, but most of the reason why people are hurting is because they don't listen to what their healthcare professionals tell them to do. Like, they tell them to do something and they go home and they're just like, that guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And I've heard that plenty of times. Man, these doctors don't know what they're talking about. And the issue with life, especially in this, microcosm of it, especially, is that there's truth to that in certain pockets. There are a lot of things that us in science and technology are still trying to figure out. And sometimes people are just kind of like following their intuition and being like, I think that you ought to try this out. There's also this thing where people have to go through 90 to 120 days of trying something before they figure out whether that thing is really working for them or not. So they get discouraged and they're like, no, this doctor doesn't know what they're talking about. They put me on this thing for this 3 months. Then another 3 months, they put me on this thing. That didn't work either. So then you lose complete faith in the system, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's rough. It must be so rough. And then not only that, but as you say, you get to see people unravel.
Yeah.
Like, you get to see people hanging on by that thread, like losing their faith in what it is you're trying to explain to them. And they're just like, this isn't really fucking working. Like, I'm starting to look at you like you're lying to me, Rachel. Like, I've been coming to you for 6 months now and things aren't getting better. Like, you're seeing that happening. And what it seems like, because again, I don't know you, but you seem like someone that's like heartfelt. You seem like you really care about people. And a lot of times what happens with people that really, really care about people is you get invested, right? Because you're a part of this team that has this mission that is to make the world a healthier place. Mm-hmm. And if you see people start to unravel and lose faith in that mission, then I imagine that could be, doesn't have to be, but could be tough on you in certain regards, especially if you spend a lot of time with a client.
Yeah, I mean, as a CA, I get to spend, I think, more time than even the doctors do.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So I actually probably do know a little bit more about them than the doctors do.
Yeah, like the individual.
Personally, like yes. They leave like hard questions. Obviously, I'm not the doctor, so I don't get to be like, I don't get to tell them everything. I don't make their plans. I'm just there to help them get through their adjustment. And I can give them definitely like pointers on things that they can do outside of the office to help with, allow the adjustments in their plan to work more effectively. But I definitely think that, so even at the conference I was at this past weekend, it was for chiropractors. A bunch of different offices all came together. And one of the speakers, he was even saying that it takes most people 41 out of 42 times to believe in what they're actually doing or trying out, which I thought was interesting, thinking about the patients coming in that many times before they actually believe in chiropractic care and like understand it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So what do you think is keeping them coming the 41 times, like the 40 times?
Exactly. That's what because in my head, I'm like, those numbers just seem outrageous. But again, like I came into chiropractic care as an employee almost, you know, like I didn't come in as a patient. I'm not paying the doctor to care for me. So I don't know what it would be like to be a patient right off the bat, and that's the first time I'm entering chiropractic care, and do I believe it? Do I understand it? All this different stuff. So I can imagine that it is so hard, which is why I think that I do personally have a lot more sympathy with the patients because I'm newer to it, and I do try to put myself in people's situations a lot more than I think. Sometimes I think doctors get They believe so heartily in what they do. They went to school for 8-9 years to do it that they just can't believe that people don't see what they see. I think that's I don't want to say that that's what, but I really do think that they get to that point.
That sounds pretty right.
Yeah. So I do, I don't know. I just feel like it is hard to invest in these people's lives because a lot of them have a year plan. And a lot do actually carry through for the whole year. So some of the patients I've known for 2 years. I'm going on 2 years.
Right.
So when you know someone for that long and you see them 3 times a week and then for like 3 months and then 2 times a week for another 3 months and then 1 time a week, like there's so much that is happening in their lives and you get to follow through that. And I think that that's a privilege. It's definitely a privilege to know that many people and for them to sit down and trust you enough to tell you about their lives and what they're scared of. Because people don't tell you their fears just
in regular life.
Yeah, they have to trust you and know you, and you have to make that connection. So
it's very true. We talked about that.
Yeah, so it's definitely hard when I see people that I've known for like a year, and I know what's like going on in their daughters' lives, but I see them just struggling. It's like they're almost backsliding. But a lot of it has to do with just emotional stress that's going on in their life. It really doesn't have to do with the chiropractor or them stretching enough or something. It really, a lot of people's pain is emotional. So much of it. And it stays in our bodies and it just eats away, I feel like, at our muscles,
I think so.
Our bones, and just everything. It makes us tired. And we live in a very unnaturally, like, fast-paced time. You know, especially here in Nova. It's unnaturally fast. I don't think humans were meant to move this fast, which is why a lot of people... My theory is why anxiety and depression are so high these days.
And when you say move this fast, you mean
just
as far
our
as
life. Like a lot of times there's the traffic, there's the work. We're very work oriented. Most countries, or like a lot of countries, are family oriented.
You know?
A lot are. And I think that even though, you know, they might not be top country in the world, but they've got their priorities straight, I think. And I'm not sure. I think whenever I am go, I'm exhausted. And my anxiety kind of heightens. And even my boyfriend can kind of sense that. Like, he knows when I need, like, some time to just relax and be with the people that I love. And I will always go back to family and stuff when I get really exhausted. That's kind of what I tell patients too. I'm like, so what are you doing this weekend? Are you relaxing? Like, do you have things planned? Because I think that you should just relax.
Yeah.
Because I think that they're stressed. They don't have time to think or take care of themselves. Mothers are the, like, I feel so bad. Moms can't be moms without taking care of themselves, you know? Like, you can't take care of another human if you're falling apart.
Yeah.
Internally,
For
externally, all of it.
Yeah.
But they're so focused on that baby or that child that they don't want to spend a time getting a massage or going, even if it just means to go get a pedicure.
Right.
Like, sometimes that is so stress relieving for women. It's not necessarily for me, but there's a lot of women that,
It is
like,
for me.
Exactly. Yes. See,
Love
there you
it.
go. And like,
I'm in there.
whatever it is for you, your yoga or whatever it is, like, you need that time so that you can be the best friend that you can be or the best son that you can be.
Yeah.
Like, we have so many titles to put on. We're not just one person. We're a daughter or a son, brother, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle.
Right.
And we love being all those things, but we can't be all those things if we're just withering away and we're going too fast. We need to slow down.
Yeah.
A little
bit. So what's your favorite, like, downtime sort of activity? What do you do to kick back?
So, I don't know, my favorite is, well, I love hanging out with my boyfriend. Honestly,
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. Whenever I have free time, I'm like, look. And he's the same way. So,
That's nice.
So it's nice being in a relationship with someone who is
That
like
you feel that
way. Yes, because you don't
They
feel
like being around
They actually
you.
like being around you.
Hey, no, that's
It's a huge thing. You can laugh. It's big. So I love that.
Oh my gosh, I've been in relationships before. I promise you, where the phone has rang and it's been them, and this hasn't been for a very, very long time. But I know the sentiment of seeing your significant other, which is so crazy, calling you and you looking at the phone. You're hanging out with your friends and you pick up the phone and you're just like, oh fuck.
Oh.
Like, oh man, like they're calling me, like what do they want to talk about? Like, this is because this was a thing for me. One, our relationship could have been out of alignment, right? And if that was the case, then I knew that there could have been an issue. Like, if I pick up the phone, there could have been like a 4 out of 10 chance that it was going to be an argument, and 4 out of 10 is way too high, right? 4 out of 10 is way too, it shouldn't be like almost a 50-50 flip, right? Like, that's crazy. Or there was just a time where when we were younger, people just wanted to be on the phone. Like, it wasn't intentional. Like, I have something to say to you. I just want our phones to be connected. And I'm going to be watching TV or like making dinner, and you're going to be speakers on. You're going to be hanging out with your friends. But like, when I say something, or, you know, like, you're there to say something back, and I'm just like, I don't want to answer this phone for that right now. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, do you have something to say to me or not? I don't want to answer this phone and just have the phone sitting there. Like, I don't want to do that. So I remember a time where, I didn't want to be around some of the significant others I was with, because first and foremost, I wasn't making them significant in my life. Like, they were just others. They were just there, and I wasn't giving them the care and the love that needed to actually make this person significant in my life. So I was just dating people. Like, I was just dating people, and they were there and I was there, and we were like, oh cool, let's date. And that was how I got together with some people, and it was terrible. Yeah, either way, hindsight, I knew it. That's behind me now. But it's these types of things that you learn from. Yes. Right? You live and you learn. So I'm glad that you like hanging out with him. So what do you guys do?
We are watching New Girl right now. So that's it. That is a big part of what we'll do. We'll sit, because to be honest, both of us have very long days. Mm-hmm. So once we finally get to settle down, we'll just put on Netflix and watch some New Girl, which is really fun. Or we'll hang out with his family a lot, because his family
I've seen every episode twice. Yeah.
I'm watching it a third time with him.
Yeah. Actually, I don't even know if it's twice. It may have been 3 times. I would just click around. Oh, really? Nice.
This is his first, which is so exciting. It is so fun. You should find someone who hasn't seen it and rewatch it with them, because it is so fun. He laughs at everything that I used to laugh at, and I already anticipate it, but it makes me giggle all over again, and it's so fun.
Yeah, because you kind of seeing it through like a new eye. Yep. I get that. It's great.
No, I love it.
Do you have a favorite character?
I love Nick.
Okay, yeah,
But I love Schmidt. Schmidt is so funny.
I think he's like the star, man.
He is.
It's almost like any scene he's in is about to knock it out the park.
Oh, no, you're right.
He's
you are
really, really, like, he never drops the ball.
Exactly, yeah. It wouldn't be
great.
a good show without him, for sure. Like, I would not want the show without him, but I also wouldn't want it without Nick. Because Nick is so awkward and weird.
It's great, isn't it?
Like, yes, like, any part that either one is in, or especially if they're together, because they are a hoot together, but, man, like, they're just so outlandish.
I don't know if this is going to be controversial. Do you know who I could get rid of?
Who?
Oh my God, it's so funny because I'm not even, someone that knows me is going to laugh at this part because I'm not even remembering her. Cece.
Oh, but Schmidt loves her.
Schmidt could love someone else that they cast to do that. Here's my issue.
Okay.
Cece. Everyone else is such a dynamic character and whatever. Well, actually, sometimes Winston Bishop too. He's great in his own right too. Okay. Jess,
I do have something to say about
Jess,
Winston.
Schmidt, and Nick, their characters are just so strong. They're so dynamic. And on top of that, all of the side characters that just pop up for a couple of episodes every now and again, like, they're amazing at what they do as side characters that just pop up. So I really don't have time for anyone to not be great all the time. Because everyone in the show is A1 all the time. But I feel like Winnie, he's kind of like just like weird, and I could and Coach is all right when he's around sometimes. Cece, I just feel like she's just like missing like I don't know, something strong about her personality, because like her whole thing is like she's just a pretty model.
Yeah.
So like there's not like something else very substantial backing that up. It's like she's supposed to be there and be pretty.
It's funny that you say that, because we were actually watching one of the episodes where she they were trying to figure out what they didn't like about each other. What did they call it? They called it something. But do you remember the episode? They were all like, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
And she kept saying, is it because she kept trying to act weird?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, but you don't do that in all the episodes. It's like for one episode, they were trying to point out things that I guess she does, but like no one caught that.
Yeah.
No one catches that.
Yeah.
And then Winston, do you remember like in the first episodes when he first came back from playing basketball or whatever?
Yes.
He was, just kind of the cool guy. And then all of a sudden,
you knew this too?
Yes, and then all of a sudden he became the one that was just like was crazy prankster, and like I was like, when did that happen? But it's been bugging me. It's been bugging me.
I'm so glad. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that someone else.
Yes, I've noticed rewatching it with Luke. I'm like, I was like, wait, is really bugging me.
Because he was supposed to be Coach, like in a sense.
I think you're right.
Like he was supposed to, because think of this, like he was supposed to be a handsome guy, which he wasn't really made out to be, right?
Yeah,
like he was supposed to be like the handsome, cool, suave guy that was dressed up in like the track suits and stuff like that, and because he was supposed to be an athlete, right? So he's supposed to be cool. But then I tried to track it down, like I just kept looking at episodes, and it's something weird. I think it's like somewhere in like season 2 or something, but they make this wild curve where he just becomes a completely, like a whole weirdo.
I don't think that they knew what they wanted his character to do. And I think when they lost sight of that, they're like, oh, just do this.
Yeah.
We just need another weirdo.
Yeah,
so like,
that was very, very weird, but I'm glad you caught on to that.
Yeah, it's been bugging me rewatch. But you know what? I'm not going to lie. I noticed it the second time I watched the series. But the third time, I was like, this is so noticeable. I don't know. But I don't know if Lucas caught on yet. I think that he just is taking each character for how they come in each episode at this point, which I totally get. I think I was like that the first time.
Yeah, because I definitely didn't catch that the first time.
But it definitely bugged me, so I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, not at all. Okay, so you're watching New Girl with Luke. Like that is numero uno way of just like like that is decompression time.
But his family also lives pretty close. So he lives with his family, and we live really close. So I'll go over there all the time, and we'll do game night, which is kind of fun. We're actually doing that Thursday, but they're really cute. They do
It's so nice, by the way, that you were in with the family before y'all ever even became a thing. Like, isn't that kind of like reassuring?
I really liked that too. I didn't meet his mom until our second date.
Right.
I had met him at his house, so I met his mom. But even his dad, like, I don't know, his whole family is just, they have the greatest dispositions.
Really?
It's insane. Like, I've never met a family like that before.
Yeah,
but
nice.
they're just nice people. They're just nice.
Isn't that like so overlooked? It's just nice.
I think so.
Like just being a nice person.
Yeah,
Isn't that so great?
They're not complex. They're just
nice.
So pleasant. So pleasant to be around.
It.
Like I could be around them all the time.
I love it.
All the time. Like the other day when we were playing the game night, they're like, you don't have to come, like no pressure. And I'm like, no, I want to come. I love spending time with them.
What's their jam? What are they doing over there for game night?
So I think we're playing, what is it called? It's this complicated game that the first time we played it, I won, and so now I don't want to play it again because I don't want to lose, you know?
Damn, it's like that. You won't give anyone else a chance to win? Like,
no, but they're kind of
You're going to walk away with everyone's money? Like, you're that person.
Oh, Catan. Have you ever heard of Catan?
I've heard of Catan, but I've never played it.
So I have played it once. It's a pretty long game. Have you ever played Life?
I've played Life, but also not in a very, very long time.
It's kind of like that concept where it's like you're trying to, I'm trying to remember. It was, you're trying to, it's just a long game.
It's just a long, are you trying to acquire things? Or are you trying to
kind of like that, I guess.
So this is like, is it more
I can't remember if you build something or what it is, but there's like different types of materials like wood and there's land that you want to acquire.
Oh yeah, this sounds like a lot.
It is a long game, and I don't quite remember how I won, or I'm just gonna have to reintroduce myself on Thursday.
So you played it once and won, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
I know, right? I don't think I can do it again.
Do you just pick things up quickly, like in general?
I don't. I think it's
games.
I think it's a.
You like games?
Up. I do like games,
like,
but I
haven't. What do you like to play?
So I actually play Mahjong a lot on my phone.
Oh, I also don't know how to play that.
So I played it a lot on the computer when I was little, back when we had like dial-up and stuff.
Yeah.
It would always freeze on me, so I would never be able to get through a whole game. But it's like Chinese match. It's like a Chinese matching game. So like you want to get it in a specific time, but it's like all these symbols on blocks and you just want to match them.
Right.
But not all of them let you win, so it's kind of frustrating. Like I'll get genuinely frustrated sometimes. I'm with Luke and I'm like, oh my gosh, fuck this game. I'm so mad. You just get hyped. But I also like solitaire.
Okay.
I know, I'm kind of an old lady.
Oh no, that's fine. Listen, I'm an actual old guy. Like I'm very old. I have like a GameCube sitting over here, which no one plays anymore, but I just have it over there, just in case. Just in case for nothing, because that case will never come up.
Do you have to play with someone in a GameCube?
No, I can play by myself.
Okay.
But I usually don't. I'm not. You know what the thing with gaming for me is? If I find something I like, I will definitely play that thing. But I don't want to. First of all, these systems these days are crazy. I looked at like a PS5 online the other day. She said like $700, $800. I know people are probably looking at me like, yeah, Earl, that's what it is these days. I haven't looked into this stuff, but it's a lot of money for a brand new game system. So if I were to get one, it wouldn't even be one of the newer game systems. But I don't know about purchasing a game system because I don't know how much time I'm really going to invest in it. And how much time I really would want to invest in it. Because I also don't want to... I got to check myself. I have an interesting personality. And it can be addictive. So I just need to check myself a lot of times. There's certain things about myself I know I need to check. Which is like an addictive personality and my ego. Those are two things that I constantly have to be checking on with myself. And just like... I have to put myself through humbling experiences often. And I try my very best to do that. And I also have to make sure that the things that I'm doing, like if I'm getting addicted to something in some way, or I'm having like that addictive personality is manifesting itself some way, that it's at least towards something great.
Yeah.
Like drinking water or exercising or stretching or reading, but like just doing something. I got to make sure that, or the podcast, you know what I mean? Just meeting new people and having conversations, like awesome conversations with new people. That's something I can do all day, every day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm just, those are things I gotta check.
It's good to learn. when you can learn about yourself, like the things that maybe you would like to change, but instead of just changing it, you just turn it into something that is productive or good.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what life is about, right? Because we don't really change our innate selves. We just try to... Uh-oh.
No, it's not a uh-oh. It's just... you said something that has been quite gripping for me lately. I just had a great conversation with my roommate about it yesterday. And I think that this is something that is revolutionary for some people that haven't stumbled upon this train of thought yet, which is people in the dating sphere, right? It's tough. It's tough for people. People find it very, very, they didn't have the layup that you did. Like you just got it, just handed to you. Like, hey, Luke's right over here. Great guy. Come on over. Hey, Luke, hey, come meet this chick. Like it just worked out like that. That was awesome. And you guys were clearly both awesome people, and now you guys are watching New Girl, right? So like that's the chain of events right there. A lot of people don't have that. That's an awesome story, and I'm very happy. High five.
Thank you.
Right? But a lot of people don't have that, and they're just, swiping on Tinder or whatever it is that they're swiping through, and they're trying to meet people out. They're drunk. Stuff is weird. You're meeting people in an altered state, so things are already weird. It's a lot of stuff going on out there in the dating sphere. A lot of people think it's trash. That's a very popular opinion that I hear from people. Is it's trash. Everybody sucks. No one's worth cuffing. No one's worth giving any of my real time to and taking seriously. Like, that's a real thing. And then of course all these people are saying that, look at themselves and they're just like, I'm not the problem, right? To everyone else. Right?
Yeah. So
anyway, so that's the thing. And we're having this conversation and he's like, yeah, man, but like if I step out there, I want someone to accept me for me. And that's another thing that I've heard, like a very common trope is you need to accept me for me. Now, I have this thing I call, sort of like headline news or bumper sticker talk, I call it, which is something sounds really, really nice when you just say it in like 6 or 7 words.
Yeah.
My whole thing, being what I deem myself a conversational engineer of sorts, is I like to dissect things. So a lot of times people say something that sounds really nice. And if you put it like on a black backdrop in white lettering with like a mountain behind it or like, an ocean or something, it'd probably look really, really cool. But then when I start asking people questions about that one phrase, they slowly start getting tripped up pretty early on in my questioning. It's because they never thought about something because they had something said or they read it somewhere, usually Twitter or something, and they liked the way that it was said. Yeah. And because they liked the way they said, they completely adopted it. They took it in and was just like, you have to accept me for me. And it's like, okay, that sounds great. Let me ask you a couple questions though. And let's see how you fare with that. Who are you? Yeah. That's number one.
That is a big one.
Right? People get fucked up immediately. Oh, who am? Okay, well, hold on. Well, who am? Well, they maybe tell you their gender, their race, or their nationality. I'm that. And I'm also a caring person. Then they start going through values. Well, I'm this and I'm that. And it's like, all right, well, we've already talked about hypocrites. It's like, well, are you all these things all the time? Like, okay, so you're a being, a very complex and malleable, impressionable being, and you fluctuate in time and space, depending upon where you are, what time of the day it is, or what you've eaten that day, or if you've exercised or not. You're fluctuating. Like things are changing. Your neurochemistry is going up and down, right? You have, what did you call it again? PMDD.
Oh, right? I hope they don't.
Right? You never know. You never know what's going on, but there's just a bunch of things fluctuating all the time. Now, next question. Are you your behavioral pattern? Like the things that you think about, is that you? Or is that just the things that are coming up into your consciousness? Just the things that you're thinking about? The way that you behave right now, is that you? Or is that the way that you behaved one moment out of what will be the entirety of your life? Like, does that thing have to be you? It's maybe a representation of in a manifestation of what is going on inside of you at the moment, whether it's in alignment or maybe you have what was that term again?
Subluxation.
Subluxation. It could be some subluxation in your actual spine or your figurative spine. You know what I mean? Like we don't quite know what's going on, but I don't know if it's just necessarily apt to say it's you through and through.
Yeah.
Right. So we have some questions to ask. And so I think that by no means do I think that this is an easy process. Let me also say that. But I think that when you go into something with someone, this is why people hide a lot of themselves at first, right? So like a glacier. So I give you a little bit of myself and you like that part, and it can seem deceitful, but it's not really. Like you're showing someone a little bit of yourself, and then they like that, and then you let them in a little bit more, and then they learn that about you, and then maybe you get into some deeper stuff or some family issues or whatever the case, and then they take that in. But by this point in time, they kind of get to know you. And they're like, okay, I trust you. Like, I like you. But there are some things about your behavioral patterns that aren't so optimal. Right. Mm-hmm. And I don't know at what point in stage for the relationship this comes. Some people it's sooner rather than later, whatever. Some people, they never have those discussions and they're just with people that they hate for the rest of their lives. Right. Looking at their phone when they call like, oh, God, no. Right.
Aww, yeah.
So that happens. So, but there has to be a point where I say, I like you, but how can we as individuals, as a part of this unit, ascribe issues to one another in a constructive way? Like, because you're not going to sit here and look at me and say you're the best version of yourself that you hope you can be in your entire life. Like, you're not saying that. So, and I'm not saying that about myself. I want to be better. So then what are we doing here? Are we going to help each other become that better version of ourselves? Well, the only way we can do that is if I raise an issue with you. Yeah. If I address an issue. We can only address the issue if I detect the issue. So it's not that I don't like you. It's just that I think that there are certain things that you could be doing better that would elevate your quality of life, and therefore, as a byproduct, elevate my quality of life, and vice versa.
I think that there's a lot that goes into that too, because, I mean, when you've dated multiple people and then you find one that you're like, this is the one. And that can be very different for a lot of people. But, I mean, me and Luke actually had like a very good conversation a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. We're almost 8 months into dating, so we're not even a year.
Yeah.
And so we're still learning so much, and we're going through so many different parts of life together. But this is the longest I've ever been with anybody, and it's the longest he's ever been with anybody. Because I think early on, there was something both of us just knew that we wanted that person. Like, the people in the relationship have to know that they want this relationship to flourish, or it doesn't matter having that conversation, because if one of them has even the slightest instinct that this isn't their future person or this isn't their person, then I think that already they're kind of sabotaging their chances. Yeah. And it's not purposefully done most of the time. It's just, you're not going to be with everybody. You're not meant to be with everybody, you know? So and some people don't believe in one person, so that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But like, I do. So when I look at Luke, like, I look at him as my person. And so when we had this conversation a few weeks ago, it was a very, like, I'm sure this is pretty common actually. So, you know, the girl gets a little triggered by things maybe from the past. And so, like, if you talk to me a certain way, maybe it might trigger me from something else that happened. Yeah. And I'm consistently reminding myself that he's not like them, right? Because they're not. Like, I don't want Luke to ever think that I don't respect and love him enough to realize that he's not them. Yeah. You know, he's his own person, and that's why I love him. And so we were having a conversation, and he mentioned he was a little nervous. Sometimes he overthinks things because he wants to make sure that it wouldn't hurt me or make me mad, or he doesn't want to do anything that, or like, he thinks sometimes about things that I do And he's like, if I did that, I wonder if she would be frustrated about that. You know, it's that, does the girl expect more from the boy than the boy expects from the girl kind of conversation? And then at the same time, that nervousness of bringing it up because you don't want there to be conflict. And so he was just, it was so great. He like brought it up, and he was nervous about bringing it up because he didn't want to bring up something that would make conflict. But he brought up his worries to me, and I told him, I was like, it's me and you. Like, it doesn't matter what we bring up. Like, I want to make sure that we're both comfortable enough to say things that make those uncomfortable conversations, I guess, happen. And then, I don't know, I just feel like if you truly care for somebody, you just kind of, you want to push through those uncomfortable conversations, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the case. I've talked about having an objective on here before, and that's kind of what it is you're touching on, is like, why are we together? Like, because if our objective, and I talked about, it was funny, I talked about the 3 little pigs on here before too, because it's about building, as you were talking about before, a firm foundation, right? Because if your house is made of straw or sticks, it's getting blown over. Right? Like, you need the house of bricks. Like, that is what you need. And so it's about how are we building this foundation for one another. If we don't know why we're here together or what it is we're trying to accomplish, then there's a very good chance that a lot of stuff could like rock our house. Like, cause we don't know what it is we're even doing here. So anything from the outside could rock this thing. Like you go, you know, I've heard this before, which I think just is a complete cop out, which is, I don't want you hanging out with this other sex. Like, I don't want you spending so much time around these types of people. And it's not because I don't trust you. It's because I don't trust them. What are you saying then? Like, what do you mean? You know that it would take my consent, right? Like, so that's a cop out. Like, that's not true. You, to some degree, you have to not be trusting me, because you would think that I am going to be, as soon as I walk out of the house and I see this other person, I'm clearly going to be tempted to do this thing, which means that there's something else that we're not addressing, which is, why do you feel like once I leave this house, I'm going to be tempted and actually execute the action of doing this thing? So we need to get to that, because you don't actually have an issue with me going and hanging out with them. You have an issue with me going out and hanging with them and doing something.
Yeah, get to the root of it.
Right. So it's like, we got to get down to the root of the issue here. And that could have a whole lot more to do with you than it does with me. Yeah. And a lot of the time that is the issue. I think so much more about anytime there seems to be like the boat rocking, you know, on my side. It's so easy for us to just point the finger. Your fault. Definitely your fault. Like, I'm upset with you, so it must be it must be your fault. Like, if I'm upset with you, if that's the story that I'm telling myself, then it must be your fault. But if you were able to breathe and get yourself together and then objectively look at the situation and think about it critically, which also, again, I say it like it's much easier than it actually is, then we'd be thinking, what could I possibly be contributing to this situation? Or how could I possibly shift my perspective so that it's just not even this thing at all anymore? And it's funny because my friend sent me this quote from, I believe it was either, I think it was Tara Brach. It was yeah. But it was this thing of, you know, you have to realize that you are the ocean, and that if you are the ocean, you don't fear the waves. You just realize that they are a part of you, but that is a separate, that is you are not just the waves, right? You're not just the turbulence, right? You are the entirety of the ocean, and the waves are a part of you. But that's nothing to fear, because it is just a part of you. And there are ebbs and flows in life. Everything we keep talking about is fluctuation. There are ebbs and flows. And if that's the case, then when you are in a moment, like you talked about being in traffic or something like that, when you're in these moments where you tense up and you're upset, there's a good chance that you're fighting something. Like you are in now resistance to the moment, instead of just, okay, I'm in traffic. That's where I am right now. Let's start looking around. What's the sky look like? Like, what music am I listening to? What podcast am I listening to? Let me really lock into the podcast that I'm listening to. Or, oh, I've never seen that type of car before. That's a nice color over there. Like, oh, look at this idiot eating a cheeseburger and on the phone and reading a book at the same time while he's driving a car, right? Like you just start looking around at the moment, but you're no longer fighting the waves. You're no longer fighting those ebbs and flows. Like you allowed yourself to become one with everything that's going on, and you stopped resisting, right? People come and maybe you're in a conversation and it's a contentious conversation of some sort, and you start to get riled up over it. Like, why are you so just take in whatever it is they're saying, right? Maybe you ought to drop your stance. And that doesn't mean that you lose a huge piece of who you are. It just means that now you're going into the conversation, and hopefully you do this from the start, but you're going into the conversation from now just a place of curiosity. What does this person think?
Yeah.
How do they feel about it? Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that thing that you just said. I've never heard that before. I don't know. Like it didn't quite resonate with me. I never experienced that before. Tell me more about. So now you're putting someone else in a better space to be able to say things and express, which is then, as a byproduct, going to allow them to be in a better space to be able to even listen to you, right? Because now they feel heard.
Yeah.
Right? Which then unlocks a certain part of themselves that wasn't there before, because they were tense. But now you're not tense. It's very, very difficult to be a tense person and be angry with someone that's just like looking at you with curiosity. And like, you know how angry you have to be to just be screaming at someone that's just looking at you with passion and like and compassion and curiosity.
You have to be very
like
mad.
you have to be like, you gotta be a psychopath. Like that's crazy.
So unhappy.
So once you figure out how to regulate your own emotions, I feel like so much more comes to you. Like it's just, I'm done fighting those waves. Like I'm just relaxed now. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just a part of it all, and like I'm not going to keep resisting. And then you're floating. Then you're just floating, and things are just really cool. So I find that, to be a pretty helpful approach when trying to have any of these types of discussions that you're talking about, because everyone finds all different sorts of conversations to be difficult. Like what's difficult for you may not be difficult for me, and what's difficult for me may not be difficult for you. You're just like, you think that's a difficult conversation? That's what are you talking about? I talk about that all the time. Right. So it fluctuates, but it's I find that to be quite a helpful tool or way of conceptualizing the way that we are in this world, and the way that we can navigate our interactions and encounters with other human beings.
It would be so nice to be that calm all the time. Sometimes it just runs away from you. You don't even realize you're in the heat of frustration until it's like way too late. And then you're like, man, I got to apologize to a couple people.
And then, like you said, all you got is sorry after that.
All you got is sorry. But I mean, it's a powerful word. It's not used too often.
Yeah, that's very true. Taking accountability, just taking a step back when you do get a chance and being like, man, that was bad.
Yeah.
That was bad. Giving that person a call or seeing them in real life, just being like, hey, yo, that last time, yeah, man, it just wasn't the, but I find but it's so liberating. I say it all the time that humility is like the humbling experiences. They're so cringe at first. Like being able to look back at yourself and see something that you said or did, and like it's just diabolical to you now. You just don't even know what state of mind you were in. You're just like, oh God, like I can't believe I said that or I did that thing. Like I was that person. Oh my, that's so terrible. And I have those moments all of the time. time.
Yeah, everyone does though.
But what's great about it is I don't know about that.
Well,
and I'll tell you
actually,
why.
I said it and then I was like, wait.
because I think if you do have that, I applaud you. I applaud you because that means that you're going through a constant evolution. And that you're now in a point where you can look back and think that, as opposed to looking back and being like, no, I was definitely right for making that decision. Like, you know what I mean? Because there's some people that are just like holding on to something. They're just like, oh no, that thing 7 months ago? Yeah, still, I'm right. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? I look back at things I'm talking about 2 weeks ago, a month ago, 6 months ago. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't, that was so arrogant. Like that's why I said the ego. Sometimes there's certain things that I've said and I'm like, I can't believe that I like look down on that person, or that I said that thing about that group of people, or that like, who the fuck do you think you are, Earl? Like,
I've had those moments for sure.
Oh my God, they're so terrible. They're so terrible. I hate it. Like moments where where I've seen pretentious. I'm like, oh, that's so gross. Oh, I can't believe I said that thing. I can't believe I acted like I was on some fucking pedestal. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, get out of that. It's so bad. Like, I'm feeling it all again right now. It's so bad. But right on the back end of these humbling experiences comes triumph. Because as soon as you realize and you get over that crippling feeling of, oh God, that's so fucking terrible. what you feel like, but I'm no longer him anymore. Like, I'm no longer that person. Like, I detected it and I triumphed over that. I know that was a thing I don't want to do.
You grow every time.
Oh my God.
Every time you grow.
And there's no other way to do it. It's like either you keep doing that dumb thing and you save yourself from that crippling feeling of realizing how dumb you are, right? And you just stay there, which would be the whole ignorance is bliss thing, right? Or you make the conscious decision, no, I'm going to look at it real hard with a magnifying glass and look at just how stupid I was in this moment. And I'm gonna look at it from every different angle, and not just, I don't mean go on a self-loathing binge. That's not what I mean. I mean, just really look at it so you feel it, because feeling things is not a bad thing. Just feel it, process it. And then so you know, I don't want to feel that again. I've got to stop doing that thing. It's like you were saying, the signaling. These symptoms are a good thing because it lets you know, bing, you are an asshole. Bing, like you don't want to continue to treat people like that. You'll end up alone. Like, you know, these things come together, and when you get these signals, it's a blessing because you have to listen to that.
And then when you go and you apologize, what's like the reaction that you typically get? Is it like they're like surprised were they even thinking about it? Did they even notice? Or were they like, wow, thank you for the apology?
Here's the thing, because there's a huge scale of severity when it comes to transgressions, right? Like, I could have done this one thing, like I didn't, like instead of holding the door open, I kind of closed the door behind me and I didn't realize that there was someone behind me. And I'm like, oh, hey, oh, sorry about that. And they're just like, oh, no big deal. Like, you weren't watching, right? That's small things. And then there could have been things like you cheated on an ex-partner of yours.
Okay.
So now we have, that's what I'm saying. So there's a large scale of severity, right? And gravitas with the things that you do and the way that you treat people. So I've had a slew of things that I've had to apologize to people for, and I do it too. And you want to know why I do it? Because I can't stand looking at a weakness in myself. As soon as I detect it, I'm like, you're getting out of there. You're fucking getting out of there. I apologized to someone a couple weeks ago, and again, it's about contribution, because I don't think I was all the blame for like what we went through. It was like one night at a Korean barbecue spot. You know, we were drinking some. I think we had gotten like a little high before too, so it wasn't, you know, the best mixture necessarily. But this person had tried to act like I was just some idiot dude that like doesn't listen at all. It was the very first time I'd hung out with this person in their group of friends, and they were kind of like trying to call me out and make me seem like I was some idiot that doesn't know how to listen or something like that. Like I was some stereotypical man in their mind, right? Like, guys, like men just can't listen. Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, said something like that. And I'm just like, can't listen. First of all, I just invited you out to the car to smoke before this, so I'm high. My memory's not the best. That's one thing. And so you should know that. Two, I actually did hear what you said. I just asked you to repeat what you said because I felt like what you asked was so asinine. I wanted to give you a second. I wanted to give you a second to try to fix what you said and edit it. But now that you didn't, I'm going to tear this place down. And so then what came out of my mouth afterwards wasn't like I wasn't calling anyone names, but I definitely made her not look so bright at the table. And in that moment, it feels good. But immediately afterwards, I'm like, that was terrible. Now, months go by. And I don't talk to this person, but they happen to work with me. And we just do this awkward thing where you just don't acknowledge this person's existence when you walk past them for a long time. And just one day I looked at them and I was in a much, clearer spot because I'd been sober for long enough. And, like I think a week from today will be 6 full months. So that's great. So just complete, sobriety and,
that's awesome.
Continued on with just heavy meditation and yoga and conversation. Just a ton of practices. I don't need to go through it because everyone that listens to this podcast is like, yeah, Earl, we know your fucking practices. So a slew of things, and I just had a clearer mind, and I was looking at her, and I thought, it's funny too, because as soon as I detect this sort of thing in my mind, I have to do it, because if I don't, then it's like, you weak fucking cowardice bitch. Like, you didn't do that thing. So this is what I'll do. I'll look and I'll be like, I should go and apologize for my contribution that night. And as soon as that thought comes in my mind, I see it as a moment to become better. It's like, who do you want to be? Well, the type of guy you want to be would walk over there right now, tap her on the shoulder and say, hey, listen, about that thing that happened fucking 6 months ago or whenever it did. Like, I just want to let you know, like, I wasn't in the best headspace at that time. And I just want to apologize for whatever my contribution was. That that guy that I want to be, he would go do that. And then you're talking to yourself like, so what are you going to do? And then once you do that, once I say that to myself, I'm like, well, I guess I'm going over there then, because I'm not the guy that's not doing that. I'm the guy that does that. That's the narrative I'm telling myself. I'm that guy.
I just love all of this going on in your head, and she's just like working. She has like no idea what you're thinking.
Yo, and not only that, but to further answer your question, I go and I do this. She's like, oh yeah, like that's totally fine. Like I thought that you were a cool guy anyway. Like that didn't ruin like my thought of you at all. Like, but
she hadn't talked to you for a while, so that's the thing.
See what I'm saying? It's just like your clients. Like, you're just supposed to be believing what it is they have to say. So she said that, and I thought it was a very nice thing to say. But there was clearly tension there. There was clearly something wrong.
She appreciated a lot more than she let on.
And then every single day since then, hey Earl, good morning.
Yeah,
how are you?
see,
now it's a whole different energy.
And I think that's great too, because there's no like time limit. There's no like expiration date on like an apology. So I've had people call me up like years later after something had happened and apologize. Like, obviously these are bigger things.
We should definitely expound on what you're saying, because there's not an expiration date on your side, meaning an apology never goes bad. That doesn't necessarily mean that the other person is going to receive it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like,
yeah.
Because people heal at different stages too. Yeah. So when you're healed doesn't mean that they're healed from whatever happened. So I do get that, but I think that I've also not been ready for an apology. So I've been that person who didn't accept it.
Meaning, okay, I got you.
I was that person that didn't accept it. And, but then when I was ready...
Ooh, how do you turn an apology down is wild, isn't it?
No, I didn't. Well... So it wasn't necessarily like I don't accept your apology. Like, I didn't say those words. You didn't get
sassy with it, okay.
But I said how I felt. I told them why I thought they were apologizing, rather than the fact that they were actually sorry about it.
Ooh,
so I
deep.
I didn't allow them to apologize. Right. Because I was like, you're not sorry. You're doing this for a different reason.
Yeah, you took the apology away.
Yes, I did, which is really rude. But I did it. I was not ready to take it.
Yeah.
It was probably months later, and I wouldn't say a year. It was months later. I did call, and I apologized for not accepting the apology.
Wow, okay.
And explaining why too. I simply explained I just wasn't ready for it, and I'm pretty sure that obviously I didn't. It had been a while too, so it was like we all moved on, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, it's fine." Like they said what she said. Like I didn't even think about it, but that they did. So I'm sure, like that like someone just doesn't not think about that. Male, female, I don't care who you are. Like
it doesn't
we're
mean
all
you're
humans.
crying yourself to sleep every night, but like you've thought about it. It's up there.
But people, it would hurt me if someone didn't accept an apology because of this, but also it would make me think about it too. I'm not going to lie. I still, when I think about that situation, I do think I was right to tell them, I think that you're not sorry. I think you're doing it for a different reason. Because sometimes it is good to let someone know that, like, we can see, like, through something. Because I do think that there are people out there that do things without meaning it. They just do it 1, for the look of it.
You ever just seen someone just be like, I'm sorry. For what? Like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You can't just say, like, what...
Yeah, there has to be something behind it for you to trust it, and there wasn't there. So, you get, like, people aren't stupid. Like, we can tell. We have instincts.
Yeah.
Like, you're not the only one in the room that is seeing... Typically, you're not the only one in the room seeing something. Like
details are amazing.
Yeah.
When I'm a huge fan of details.
I know. I don't know how long we've been doing this for, but it's been a while.
It's been 2 hours.
Okay, well, I can definitely tell. I mean, even in our walk before, you were like, I try not to be the deep guy.
And then listen to
the details keep coming out.
So I guess I just can't.
But this is your podcast.
No, it's not even about podcasts. It's just about because whether we were recording or not, and we just sat down, this would have been it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. Oh, trust me. These lights and this camera, these microphones, this has nothing to do.
It doesn't need to be here.
No. Like, this would have been the conversation. Like, I'm just here having a conversation with you. This isn't like I am aware that people. Again, the people that come on the podcast are much more aware of the listenership than I am. I've gotten past that point. I'm having a conversation with someone.
Right.
The people that usually come on as guests, they're having a conversation, but they're having a conversation in front of other people.
Yeah.
That part is kind of past me at this point. Like
That's good.
Yeah, I'm having conversation with people. So this would have been it regardless.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of weird. So I love to talk about all different sorts of things, and there can clearly be levity. Like, we're gonna get into chocolate. Like, we get like,
oh, you haven't forgotten?
No. Like, there can be levity. It's just, but there are still details to levity. There are still remarkable details that go into everything, no matter how shallow or how deep you think it is. There are wild details that go into everything. Right? Like, once we get into chocolate, trust me, we're going to get to a place that you didn't think that we were going to get to.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm certain of it. But that's amazing. But the reason I bring up the details is because I'm a big fan of nuance. I'm a big fan of spectrum and seeing all the little, the gray area. Like, what is the nitty gritty to like what it is we're talking about? Let's break down those banners and that bumper sticker headline talk, and let's read the article. Let's talk about the things that come afterwards through a real conversation, like real, honest, genuine discourse. Like, let's figure those things out. And so when you're talking about someone trying to apologize, I'm sorry, doesn't hack it. Like, what are you sorry for? How does it make you feel? Like, let's get into why you're sorry.
Yeah.
And it flip-flops too, because when we're talking about compliments, one, I'm not a big fan of, I realize this, it goes back to the whole ego thing. I'm not a huge fan of compliments. I usually just try to judo reverse the energy and like throw it back on the other person. Like, I'm good without them. I'm pretty good without them.
Yeah, you're more comfortable without them.
Yeah. Definitely don't need them. But when it comes to giving people compliments, I find that it's so much better when you get into detail about someone. Like, just detail about someone, because you have a great smile is like, that's awesome. Like, that's great. And you do have a great smile. So that's something that like I could say to you, and like that's a cool thing to say. Like, it's a pleasant thing to say to the next person.
Yeah.
But when you just say something like, yeah, but it's a great smile, and I've seen great smiles. but it's contagious. It's a contagious smile, right? Like, and it's genuine. Like, everything, you smile with your whole face.
Your eyes shut.
Your eyes shut, the cheekbones come out, the dimples, the teeth are there. Like, you see the crow's feet, like the whole face is just bliss. It's just happy to be in this moment. Like, that is a little bit more of something to say to someone. Right. And so it just goes on both ends. Like, what is it really about this thing that you're trying to speak about? And again, I know there's another thing that I'm saying that I'm making it seem like it's easier than it really is, because sometimes all you really got in the bag is you got a great smile.
Some people just don't. They're not good with words.
Yeah, exactly. So
they'll give them what they can.
So I don't even want to. Yeah, exactly. I'm not even trying to put people down for that. Like, that's for certain. But when it comes to the apology, still, you're not good with words. You gotta try to give me a little bit more than just I'm sorry. And then when I ask for what, I mean, you feel bad, so I'm sorry for that. It's like, okay. So you lament my feeling. I love that in Spanish that things are broken down like that, like a, perdóname is just like a pardon me. You know what I mean? Like a pardon me for my action, whatever the case is, or like a lo siento, like I lament, I feel that feeling, right? I'm using my empathy, my tools of empathy, and I feel what you feel, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's not necessarily like my bad. It's not like discúlpeme. Like, it's not like my fault for doing that thing.
Yeah.
You know, you.
I've never really liked the saying "my bad."
My bad.
I know. It's
my bad.
Like, it's such a weird thing.
My fault.
To like.
Sorry, homie.
Not like, or like, I don't know, like I do like the eye thing when people say it sometimes. So I don't, because it is very.
See, you're in the details too.
Generic?
You're in the details too.
Maybe,
These are details.
No, I am. Poor Luke has to like listen to me all the time. Like when I start
Poor Luke.
This is why like I think I was nervous about doing the podcast because I ramble and I'm an oversharer. So like I'll start talking about something and then it's not that sometimes I do forget why we started, but then it's just I just end up in a completely different area, and I feel like I've said things that everyone's like, okay, get to the point.
Oh, you think so?
I think sometimes I'm like that.
Where are you on the scale of creativity? Like, how would you say? Like, do you think you're pretty creative? Do you do things that are pretty creative and like artistic, or no, not really? Has anyone ever told you that you have an artistic or creative mind? Have you ever heard that growing up?
Someone, so actually, one person, it was, who was it? What is that class that you have to take?
In Nova?
I forget if it was Nova or Lord Fairfax, but it was...
It's like an SDV class? It's like coming into college?
Yes, it was that class.
Yeah.
That class.
Student development.
Yes, it was that class. I can't believe I remembered. So I was in front of my teacher, and I was using the mouse and sliding my finger to instead of using the arrows. And he was like, "Have you ever thought about going into like music theory or art or something like that?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Because you do things differently than other people. Like most people would use the keyboards, but you actually are taking time, like to use the mouse and scroll." And I was like, I have never thought about this. And I just thought that was such a deep thing that he took from watching me on a computer. But he was the first person that said that was 5-6 years ago.
Don't you love that? Don't you love it? Was so long ago, but yet it was so deep. It was such a quick thing.
I haven't thought about that moment until right now.
Oh wow, it just came back. That is why
I'm so surprised I'm remembering it, because I have not thought about it since then. But I remember,
how do you feel about that now? Having that resurface,
it gave me butterflies. Like I got excited. I was like, wow, like I feel so
I'm so
elegant in something. Like it's so silly. But I don't know. But I remember him saying that it was, I guess he took some psychology class And that is why he said that. He said I was working a certain part of my brain that other people don't, and it is quite unique. And I thought, but I was like, but I feel like a lot of people just play video games. You know, they're like used to just like the keyboards, like doing it fast. I don't play video games. I never have. So but I've always just, I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah, what book was it? It was, I think it was Outliers, maybe? Yeah, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell that I was reading. And he was talking about the different ways that intelligence manifests itself in this world. Because, like, anyone these days that are just looking strictly at an IQ test to prove someone's intelligence, they just don't know enough. They just don't know enough about the different ways that intelligence manifests itself through the world. And so sometimes you get someone that isn't so great on convergent thinking, that studies things and can take tests well. Yeah. Like give you a real, accurate answer to a thing.
Yeah.
Right? But then you have these other different types of people, these divergent thinkers. That's where I would fit in. Didn't do too well in school, although I think if I maybe just put my mind to it a bit more, I would have done much better. I do believe in that, but I didn't care about it at the time. I was trying to do other things. I was way more interested in just running around with my friends and girls. Girls were always at the top of the list for me at the time. It's just what I was interested in. And this divergent thinker, they look at things and they talk about things, and when they hear things or they're stimulated, there's that idea that's being presented in the conversation, and then there's like a burst of ideas that come from that thing, and it just looks like a large web, right? And
that's
really
me.
You're just thinking, what can I, like, where do we go? Like, there's so many ways to talk about this. There's so many ways to do this. I could go anywhere. I could, bring this thing and I'll tether that to that, and I'll bring that and I'll build this over here and I'll cut this and color it this way. And before you know it, you got this huge piece of architecture, and that's what happens. And that's that's a huge thing when we're going back to these qualities that I think sort of play into charisma and people wanting to hear you talk, is how are you stringing these things together? Like, where is your mind going? Because sometimes you'll hear someone start talking about something. I do this all the time. I've kind of trained myself to do this because I love storytelling. Mm-hmm. Like, someone will say something and then I'll sort of work backwards. Like, I'll start with something seemingly unrelated, like super kind of weird, and I'll just kind of like throw that boomerang and like have it go around and catch a bunch of different items from a bunch of different stories, like experiential things or facts or things that I've read from a book, or it could be fiction or nonfiction or whatever. And then it comes back around and you're like, oh, okay. It connect. Now I see what you're saying. That was a wild route you took to get there. But wow, it was so vivid. Like, okay, I see it now and I understand what you're saying, as opposed to just taking the very regular ABC route to getting there. So it's just different ways. But I think that if you can do it well, then it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to sort of go out on the limb and reach for something over here, and then walk out on this limb and reach out for something over here, and have some beautiful mashup that gives you something absolutely spectacular. I talk about the show Chopped all the time. Like, I don't think
I've seen that. Is that a cooking show?
It is a cooking show.
Oh, okay.
I love this. That's the knife. That's
the knife. Yeah.
Don't do this with don't swing the knife like you're the Santa Claus outside the Salvation Army with the bell.
Imagine a chef like cutting up vegetables.
Totally. Better knife skills.
Yes,
better right. Pantomime there. But the whole point is that, I see all these things in life connecting. And so when you see someone like Chopped take a bunch of seemingly unrelated items, like they have to do, they just open up a basket and it's a bunch of stuff in there, and then they have to make a dish out of it. It's wild looking at it, because you look at it and you're like, I could never make anything with the contents of this basket. But the chef looks in and they just see opportunity. Mm-hmm. They just see possibilities.
It's a talent.
And then they do it. And then you see the finished product at the end and you're like, wow, you can do that? Like, a human being can actually do that? And I think it's no different than conversation. Yeah. So you can be the type of person that's a bit more creative or divergent of a thinker, and you're taking a fun, different route, and you're taking a bunch of seemingly unrelated things and you're bringing it together. But if the product comes and it's plated beautifully on that dish, like, I want a bite of that. So I think that you sound just fine. I don't know if it's because I'm a weirdo as well, but I can follow you very easily along with what you're talking about. And it never seems like something you're talking about is completely out of left field. It has nothing to do with what we're on track talking about.
I feel like a couple times I caught myself and I was like, I don't know, Rachel, did you forget the
no, it's never like that. All right, let's get down to the nitty gritty here.
Okay.
We got to get down to something serious. Mm-hmm. Chocolate.
I knew it. I was waiting for you to say it. I almost said it.
Let's just get down. Like, what different ways are we incorporating this? Right? Like, what are you doing? Like, just dark chocolate squares? Do you do any sort of fondue dishes ever? Have you tried to like melt down chocolate?
I do. So actually, I used to do it a lot. So growing up, my parents wouldn't. I always had a sweet tooth. Mm. But my parents were actually, like, pretty healthy. Like, we would have a lot of rice and chicken and veggies, like, for every night for dinner and stuff. And we'd have, bread for sandwiches. We'd have, like, the basics. Right. But we didn't have a whole lot of, like, fun things to eat until maybe I got a little bit older. Okay. So what I used to do is they had chocolate chips, because every now and then my dad is really good at baking. So we would have chocolate chips. But I do like popping those every now and then, too. Yeah. But what I used to do is take their plain Greek yogurt and I would melt chocolate chips in a bowl, like a bunch of them, and then mix it with the yogurt and make like my own little, and so it hardens the chocolate. So it's just like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. It's like ice cream with
like it almost comes in like it like hardens like that.
Yeah, when you go to like Nathan's Ice Cream or something like that, and they get the hard chocolate over the cone. It's just like that. Wow. Oh, so I started young, inventing ways to like, satisfy my sweet tooth. Yeah. So that was like creative. Yeah, that was like the first time.
Huh. Fun fact about Nathan's, I was telling someone the other day, I was always trying to find like a crafty way to like take girls on dates because I wasn't like, you're young, you don't have like a ton of money, like middle school, high school, like I was dating young. So like I wanted to take people out places, and I would take them like during the summertime. We would go to Nathan's, and like that's already a great move because Nathan's is awesome. Like people love Nathan's. It's great ice cream. You're sitting out. There's great people that work back there. Mm-hmm. There's always like a ton of people, so the vibe is always pretty friendly and stuff like that. There are dogs there. People getting their dogs little pup cups, like right, like it's a great time. But what I would do beforehand is I would go to the public library and I would get an array of Where's Waldo books, and we would go sit out and eat ice cream and find Waldo in these different books, and it was a hoot. It was a hoot. It was a great time. When you're young, like now, if you try to get that off, maybe not so cool. I don't know. Maybe depending upon the right person, it could still be cool.
Well, honestly, I don't know people that actually go that in depth with creating dates anymore.
Oh, man.
Like I think that's another reason why, sorry, I'm backtracking, but like when people say that dating is trash now, I think a lot of it is there's not a lot of planning. Like it's the same old, let's go to dinner or let's get a drink or let's go out and dance. But like that is so cute. Someone took time to go to the library. They picked out a book, and they wanted an activity while serving some ice cream. Honestly, that is such a sweet... I think that is so sweet. I don't know how many times you did this with how many girls, but the idea in itself is very sweet.
I'm going to stop while I'm ahead and just not answer that question. But very cute, right? See, exactly. That's what I was saying.
No, I do. I think that I would have preferred I Spy, but that's fine.
Oh, I never...
Those books were like killer
I don't think I ever did that. But, I mean, I did the I Spy books for sure, but I never took the I Spy book out there. I don't
So for your next date. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I Spy. That's going to be so funny if I really do that. That's going to be.
You have to tell me, please, or put it on your podcast. I'll listen.
For sure. Oh yeah, no. I'll definitely. You're just one day. You're just gonna see like Earl Hooks pop up on like your text message thread. It's gonna be like image 1, like attachment 1. You're gonna open it. It's just gonna be I Spy book and like me out somewhere. Like that's.
I'm gonna send you the little hands. Like
yeah, for sure. Like that's definitely. I think that's cool, and I've always been a proponent of trying to be crafty and just try to figure some stuff out. I think that when you come, and by no means am I saying I came from nothing, but I think that when you don't have money, you find creativity.
Oh, for sure.
You find ways to make things work. And so that was the thing. It was like, I didn't just grow up with like an allowance from my parents. Like I wasn't getting $20 a week or something wild like that. Like I didn't just have cash on me. So the money I did have is like, okay, I got like this $10. How am I going to make this work? Well, public library is free. And Nathan's isn't wildly expensive. Like I think this $11.25 can get us there, right? So between those two things, now you have a great time. You have a great personality. You have some great talk, and conversation for me has never really been awkward. Like it's never really been like a weird thing for me where I'm just like constantly trying to figure out like you're
a carrier though. You carry the conversation a lot. I feel like, or you're able to. If the person you're with can't contribute, I feel like you could.
I try to give resources.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I know sometimes people need a lot of rope. So I just keep tossing.
Like, I got a whole bunch.
So I just keep tossing rope, and at some point usually what it is, I just look in the eyes and there's and again the face, and usually there's something and they light up and I'm like, gotcha, and then I stop talking and then they go and then I'm like, all right.
That comfortability.
Yeah, because I think it's so important, right? Like again, with everything that you do, people got to be comfortable to just let you into the physiology.
Yeah, massage therapy is like, you have a whole section in school, probably the first 3 to 4 weeks is about like ethics and codes and just how you react to certain situations and how they would react to certain situations if you had put them in there. Yeah. So it's like you learn very on as massage therapists. Like if you don't have that, I mean, there's people, and then there's some people that just don't like to work with people. So you definitely have to want to help people and like to be around them to make them comfortable. I don't think if I didn't, I wouldn't be good at it. I don't think I would have any clients.
Yeah.
But definitely
you saying that it's a privilege for you to meet all these people. Like there you go.
Yeah,
boom.
Absolutely. No, it is a privilege. Like people, just like you were talking about it earlier too, where, when you first start dating people, like you just give them a little bit and you hold some stuff back because it is a privilege for them as well. And I look at that, like when I started dating Luke, like it was a privilege to meet his family. It was a privilege for him to invite me to meet his friends. Like these are all parts of his life that he didn't have to include me in as quickly as he did.
Right.
But he did. He was so open, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
But I was a little slower to it as well. But it is a privilege for people to be involved.
It is. This is also a part of the conversation I was having with my roommate yesterday. Is we were thinking about friends. There have been friends that have been, left behind. Like it happens. You grow apart. Things happen. Whatever. People choose other people. Whatever the case is, and sometimes because we live in this fear of technology, you can kind of check up on someone if you want to. Like you can kind of see like what they're into. Sometimes people aren't doing so well. Sometimes people seem really angry, and it's like, damn, maybe if we had just stayed friends and you stuck around this solid group of people, like it wouldn't be that way for you. Whatever. And I just never knew what it was like to be alone. Really? Like I can be alone. That's not what I mean. Like in, solitary. But what I mean is I never knew what it was like to not have people care for me. That's what I mean.
You've always had your people.
I've always had friends. Always had friends, and friends that like cared for me. Like they were solid. They were there for me if I ever needed them. I've always had those types of friends. Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll stumble around and being around some people I had no business being around. But for the most part, I always had a solid group of friends and family around to care for me. And to think, like, I have conversations with so many people all just throughout the week. I don't even know how many people I talk to. I'm just constantly talking to people. And I just think, man, if I didn't have like the skill set that I do, I didn't know how to navigate these encounters with people and how to, reap the benefits from them, how to receive care from other people, how to receive knowledge or wisdom, or just pleasantries from people. I didn't know how to receive other people as they are. Like this would be a very different life that I'm living but man, do I just talk to awesome people. And it's like all the time, like even this, right? Because I do a podcast and that's cool. And people listen and they like it and that's cool. And Jess listens and she likes it and that's cool. But then there's another level where it's not only she just listens and she likes it and that's cool, but it's I like the person behind it, really. Like I really do. And I like him enough to introduce him to some other people that I really like. Yeah. And I like this girl Rachel a lot. She's a winner. Oh, and I like Earl. So I ought to I should put him in the same room, just see what happens and back off. You know, so just knowing that you're living that sort of life that propagates growth and propagates growth in the way of meeting new people, new interesting people that otherwise maybe you would have never gotten to know or never seen around, whatever. That means a lot because it's a wealth of niceness, of pleasantness, of beauty, of new perspective, information, wisdom, clarity, like health, right? Like there's something when we talk about these pillars of health, right? These different, let's just call them pillars as opposed to working up and down. Conversation for me is so imperative. Yeah. It's so imperative because you talk about, and I say this all the time on here, you talk about the nutrition being an aspect. Like the conversation I have is nutritious. Yeah. It feeds me and I'm getting wild vitamins and stuff from the conversations I have with people. Like this, having this space and doing this with people, like we've now been talking for about 2 hours and a half. Like who knew that this would have been a thing, but this has been a very fruitful interaction between two pleasant people, right? Coming together with real genuineness and curiosity and excitement and love and compassion and we came together and we made it happen the way that we did. Now I've had a phenomenal time. Me too. And this type of thing is like this type of thing settles in, right? Because we've talked about so many things on here. So many things. We can't even list them right now, but we've gone over so many different things and we'll stop this and we'll go on about our day. And, you know, Luke may ask you, what'd you guys talk about? And you may remember some of them, but there are going to be a bunch of things you don't quite remember, but it'll settle in. You'll go to sleep. You might remember some more. You wake up the next morning and be like, damn, like that was kind of deep. Or that was kind of interesting. Like it'll happen. And maybe a week from now, you'll be like, oh, this thing that's happening in front of me right now is kind of making me think of that thing that I had a conversation about. And that thing just pumps you up. And it's the gift that just keeps on giving. Yeah. And so I never know how these things will truly impress me or impress upon my character, but I know that they will. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing to look out for in the future.
Well, that's what I was excited about too, because after Jess sent me the podcast that you two had done together, right. And then you had sent me a few others. I was telling you, I was listening to them, and some of them did get, like, deep enough to where I was like, ooh, maybe I'm not ready for this. And, like, you, like, have to think about it. But then, at the same time, I would, like, make myself finish the podcast because I do want to hear other people's, like, ideas and thoughts. Right, because it is so interesting. Right. Just, like, hearing how people perceive life in general, because we are so different. We've all had so many different experiences. And granted, I think both of us are a bit of extroverts. So introverts are probably like, oh, this is exhausting. Like, I'm tired. I want to go to bed. Because that's just how they're wired. Right. So it's definitely like extroverts gain the energy from this.
What's funny about that is because I've had so many people on. So I've clearly run into some introverts. And I'm not taking away what you said because there probably is a draining aspect of it. Although I feel like, again, spectrum, nuance, details. You are a Christian and you also love clothes and love to dress the way that you are because you're confident and love to roll around and frolic in the daisies, right? That's just what you like to do. So there are just complexities to us, right? I've seen people have points of introversion of them as well as points of extroversion of them. And it's just really about, again, the narrative you're telling yourself or just, you know, the set of circumstances you happen to be set in at the moment. And I think different parts of yourself are flourishing at certain points, or they shine better within certain, depending upon the variables set in place at the time. And I've come across some people that would say that they're introverted, but it astonishes me every week, on or off the podcast, how much people are willing to talk about themselves, as you also just talked about before, about you sitting in there as a CA and speaking to all of these people way more than the doctors do about their personal lives and how much they're willing to talk to you about. Mm-hmm. It astonishes me how much people are willing to talk if they are looking at someone that seems like they actually care. Like they're actually
like
listening.
They're given the opportunity.
Yeah, it's like, oh, wow, like I don't ever come across, like people don't come across it enough. Yeah. And it's real, and I know it because I talk to so many people, and I just keep hearing it day in, day out, all the time. Like people don't feel like they really have people that are listening, locked in, listening to them when they're talking. So then you stop talking about stuff.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Sherry Turkle has a really good book called Reclaiming Conversation that talks all about this stuff and, you know, the rise of technology and how that's taken away from a bunch of conversation and stuff. I'm not going to be the old guy to point his finger right now, but it's kind of a thing. And so it's amazing when you allow people to start to really rev up that engine that never really gets exercised too much. And then they start coming out, and they just start stuff just starts flooding out because it's just been pent up and they haven't had anyone to get it out to, or so they feel. They haven't had anyone to get it out to. So it's
people need people for sure.
Yes, back to your point of people needing people. Yeah. People being locked up wasn't so good.
No, yeah. It's true. There was I haven't worked in the health environment long, like I said, not before COVID. Yeah. So I don't know how people were before COVID. I worked at Starbucks, so I know that they've always been a little bit angry. I've always worked in food industries, so you get
me too.
You really know people.
Yeah, for sure.
You really know people. Yeah. But it was actually funny when you said the Lo Siento thing. I remember saying that so much to the kitchen ladies at Chick-fil-A because I genuinely felt so bad for messing up the order and being like, I'm sorry, I need a large fry. Be like, Lo Siento, Papa Grande.
Papa Grande.
And they would get so mad and then fix my Spanish and then go out of there. Right. But anyways, but it's like
Papa Grande.
But I just noted, so I don't know how people were coming into the office, I guess, before COVID. But I know Dr. Michael and all of them, really talked about how people are changing. Like, when I got the job, it was mid-COVID. So they just kept saying it. People are getting more stressed. We need to maybe spend more time with the patients, all this different stuff, give them. There was a lot of, let's introduce them to exercise and yoga and just things that can give them a little bit of peace and let out some steam. That was a big push that we were doing for patients when I first got hired. And granted, I was so new, I was just okay, let's do it. But I think now that things are reopening, I realize they must have been more stressed before COVID, because I'm thinking during COVID, yes, all they wanted to talk about was how they were frustrated with what was going on. But now that everything is opened up and they have to go back to work, they're actually way more tight and frustrated now. And I think that that's why I brought up just the fast-pacedness of it all was, COVID, everyone was locked in, but seeing people, how their bodies are reacting and how their mental health is reacting towards just the fast-pacedness coming back. Yeah. And it came back pretty quickly. It was nothing and then everything, I felt like. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
At least I felt that.
Some places were clearly open up much quicker than others. Some places never shut down. You have I think that definitely some places in the Midwest, I know Idaho never gave a shit. I think I know Florida never gave a shit.
Yeah.
Like, but there were just certain places that was just like, we're not doing, like, we're chilling. What do you got?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Like, we'll take whatever's coming for us. We're relaxing. And then there were other places that shut down for a little while. Some places that are still shut down.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, for me, I never stopped.
Yeah.
So I worked all through COVID. Nothing really affected me too much, except for, like, right before I started going to the office, Starbucks had told us to start wearing masks. But other than that, nothing really changed too much. And then, but for some people, they changed their whole lives. Mm-hmm. Their whole lives.
For sure.
The way that they are bringing up their kids is different.
For
so
sure.
it's, and now that things are trying, I think, to go back to normal, I think we'll obviously always talk about COVID. It was just too crazy not to.
Right.
But, people are trying to go back to normal, and I think that they don't know what to do. And I think that confusion is stressing some people out, especially, I don't know if it's just the location of my office and, like, the type of people that live in that area. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, because it's a community and different communities act and react different. But
it's all sorts of stuff.
It is all sorts of stuff.
People are worried about politics. Like,
it is all sorts of
what's
stuff.
Going on?
I mean,
with
there's been so many changes in the past 4 years in so many different directions that, like, you're right, it is so much. I can't put my finger on it, but
people are torn asunder by all these different things. They're pulled in so many different directions by so many different things going on. Like, you cut on a lot of people's feed, whether they actually watch the news or they're on Twitter. It's just like bunch of people talking shit, or like it's stuff is going on everywhere. Yeah, and I mean, people like me don't have Twitter and don't watch the news, so we're really just going off of what we encounter day to day, right? Which isn't a bad way, but it's not the best. Like, I don't know exactly everything that's going on in the outside world, and I do think that it's important to know that. Yeah, there's balance to everything, right? Yeah, but it's really important to know what's going on in your world. Exactly. So that's kind of what I focus on, because especially with my career path, that is all that I do is focus. Mm-hmm. Like, I prioritize what's in front of me at the time it's in front of me, because I need people to know that I'm with them. Right. And it's all about them. For sure. And it really is, because that is my job, is to unravel, like, what's bringing them pain and stuff. So, like, that's kind of like that's just how I live my life in general. Yeah. It's just, I only know what's going on based on the people around me and what's going on. Like, I know gas prices are going up because I feel it. I am, like, definitely feeling that in my wallet. And like, I know food changes based on, like, what's on the shelf one week and then what's not. Like, I see things, but I don't, like, watch it on the news. I don't read it on Twitter and stuff. And I hear what people say is going on for sure. Like, oh my goodness, in my office, like, patients, they are so opinionated, and they all have, like, their views, and it is so funny to listen to them, because you'll hear one patient very conservative yelling something, and then one very liberal saying something else, and then the other patient that's like, oh, I don't really care. like, everyone is so different, and it is so funny. And it's kind of fun to be a part of that, like, knowing different sides. You can kind of, like, put pieces together, and then you create your own thoughts. But I don't know, I think that goes, I liked how you were saying how in your speech, like, you want to be like the chef and, like, take something that someone wouldn't think is possible and turn it into something else. Like, you help people grow that way, and, like, you make people think differently because they just heard you do it and they're like, whoa, I want to try and do that. Yeah. And it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I talked to my co-host about this the other day. I was like, bro, like, art is so dope. like art is what moves cultures. It's art. Like, we are so drawn to this alignment of things again. Like, we crave it. And to be able to be an artist in any respect and show people a window that they can peer through for a moment of their life and see things in a way that they would have never thought to see it before. Whether you paint a picture or you play a musical instrument, or you're a dancer, or you're a cinematographer, or did I say cinematographer? or you're a cinematographer, or I promise I can speak. I promise I do this. Or you're an orator of sorts, like a podcaster, whatever, or a chef, whatever way it is that you can do it. Bringing something together in a way is just, it's so beautiful. I was telling him that about Marianne Evans, who goes by the pseudonym George Eliot, the great fiction novelist, and Charles Dickens, who I just recently read and had a huge humility lesson just reading this book. I like his books. Oh yeah, The Great Expectations was a fantastic book. But I read some of these fantastic novelists, and I just see just how, again, magnified their view is on life, and just how much of everything they're seeing. I'm like, wow. Like, they were seeing the world it was so detailed. Yeah. Like, they caught on to every little thing, and then they were able to put it on a piece of paper, and we're able to read it and have our minds exploded just from their sheer observational skills. Like that, and we're able to see things the way that they could just for a moment, just by reading these pages. So being able to do that for someone else, like there's almost nothing else I love more than like saying something to someone. Yeah. And they look at me and they're like, whoa. They're like, yo, I legitimately just felt like my mind expand. Like I felt my mind expand and I felt my heart expand. Like my capacity for like compassion. They're like, whoa, like that's such a weird feeling. You know what I mean? Like that's an awesome thing to be able to do. Like that's so wild. It is. I remember Jess saying that when she was telling me about you the first time, she was saying, he's just a guy that genuinely believes conversation is an art form. And I was like, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah. I know. I was like, wow, that's really nice. Like, just like saying that. That is a fact.
Yeah, no, like her saying that, I was like, that's really, like, I just didn't even, my brain expanded because I was like, not even thinking about podcasts, just simply being two people having a conversation. But I mean, when I think about it, I've definitely listen to people who have a podcast for a reason, whether it's political or historical or something. Yeah. But it really is just two people having a conversation about a topic.
Yeah. People, there's so many, and that's what's great about podcasting. If you get deep into it, it's just like music in that there's so many different ways to do it. Like it's like an unlimited amount of ways of doing it. So no two podcasts sound exactly alike. They're going to be a bunch just like music where a bunch of people are just trying to do the next thing that the next person's trying to do. So, a lot of stuff just gets saturated and, it kind of bleeds itself out. But there are some really interesting things out there and some people with some amazing talents and set of skills doing really, really cool stuff out there. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a bunch of other skill. I'm good at a very finite amount of things on this planet.
So you mentioned your job. Mm-hmm. Do you work somewhere else as well? This isn't just what you do.
Yeah. I just yeah.
I was wondering about that.
This is my passion,
right?
Like this is my passion project, and I do this like once or twice a week, every week. Again, this is going to be episode 117.
That's crazy.
That's awesome, I've just been doing it every single week, and this is my passion. This is something that with or without any money or notoriety or any of that, like I will continue to do. Like I want to do this. I want to sit down with people and just chat.
Yeah.
Just talk, just about whatever comes up, whatever people are feeling that day, whatever point in life they're at. That's all. I don't care. Like we don't have to. And that was another thing when we were on the walk before this, and you were saying, oh, I got a little deep when I was listening to you and Jessica's episode. Which, ironically, the title of that episode is Look at Her Butt, which is not very deep at all.
No, I thought that was so funny because when I first met her, all I did was look at her butt or her traps. I'm not going to lie, and Jess knows this too, but it's like when you're in that like fitness world, like, oh my gosh, she's just like so proportionate and she's
been doing it for a long time.
I know, and it's amazing. And so me and my friend Maddie, who Jess also knows, because Maddie ended up training at the same gym, both of us would just be like, oh, I want that. Like, so I thought it was so funny. I laughed so hard when she sent me the the episode and it actually said, look at her butt, I was like, this is perfect.
It's hilarious because when you get in that field like long enough, like just exercise and fitness, there just comes a point where you're not looking at other people's bodies just as, man, they're hot. It just
it's not like that at all.
Exactly. It becomes a, man, you had to work hard for that.
Yeah, no, it's such a respect factor. You're like when you're in a gym and someone's like, so what do you do? What do you eat? Like, how are you living your life to like look healthy like that? Because that's what it is. Like, to me, Jess just looked so healthy, and that's what I wanted. I was like, she looks so healthy. Yeah. And that's what I kept saying.
I was going to say that long before in this conversation, that you look healthy.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's funny too, because it's far beyond, well, I don't know, it's hard to tell because it's not just your appendages, right?
Right.
Like your skin looks healthy and your aura, like the way that you come off. It's sort of like when I was saying, you kind of get a sense of where people are like sort of teeter-tottering the line between insanity, right? Like you don't know, but you seem healthy. Like you seem like your mind is here and it's clear, or it's clear enough for us to be able to,
clear enough.
For us to sit here and do what it is we've done and paint this picture together. So getting back to the art side of things, oh yeah, I've been looking at this as an art for a long time. It's like an art and science, right? And it's just like an ongoing art and science. Like they're still figuring out so much about conversation and how it's done in different cultures and things of such sort. But I find it to be absolutely fascinating, and this is my means of getting what's inside out. Like this is the way that I know how to do it. Yeah. Right. Like I'm not that great at anything else. But this I love to do, and so I love to get better at it. And I listen back to almost every episode, and I think like a lot of, Earl, like you suck, like why you need to be better. I know, but I promise you, like I'm just never quite satisfied.
We're our own worst critics, for sure.
I'm just like, you could explain this better. Like you could have really inquired better on this. Like that would have like livened something up. Like but it is that drive that makes me better. Yeah. Right. Because I don't want to just be completely satisfied with everything I do. Like, because then I'm just chilling. Like I don't want to be that. So I'm constantly just like looking at the brush strokes and the different colors that I'm using and all that sort of stuff. I've also done a lot of drugs. So just to say like that. Also. That's kind of been a thing. What is that thing? It's called like synesthesia. I don't have that. I think this was called synesthesia, where some musicians see colors, like when they play notes, like they see music. Yeah. Like they see colors play, right? I think I'm getting that term right. If it's not, it's something very close to that. And some people see like shapes, they see like geometric shapes and stuff like that. And I've had my fair share of, drug experiences, and I've just seen things with my eyes open and my eyes closed. It's gotten very trippy and very, very cool, but also very rewarding and very informational, right, to me. Mm. And I think that that's helped out a whole lot because it's been able to unlock my mind and see conversation as more of an art form. And so in my mind, it's so fluid and it's so beautiful. And I think you can do just as much with it as you can with music or with a dance. It's like, I likened it to dancing before we started recording. Yeah. Right? Because that's the way I see it. Just imagine like the most beautiful improvisational ballerina. Like that's kind of the way that I see it. Like the most elegant swan of like a woman just dancing and pirouetting around a stage, and like people just locked in, and you have these spotlights on her, and she just glides across the stage and twists and turns and moves her body in ways that you could have never seen, but she's doing it improvisationally, right? Like just feeling it through and just doing whatever the body feels in that moment, just moving, right? Like fucking water. Right? Like that's when I get in the groove, like that is what conversation ought to be. Like that's what I think. It's not about it being deep. I didn't want you to think because you listened to that Jessica episode, like this had to be deep, even though again, I can't kind of stop myself from getting there. It's like, I just want it to be fluid. I just want us to be here and do it together.
Yeah. You just want it to go where it's
where it
being taken,
goes,
like, just naturally.
where it goes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's really all I care about. I don't want to take hold of it and try to make it something that it doesn't need to be. I don't want to try to manufacture it in that way. I just want it to flow organically. So that's what I try my best to just do that thing. So it's really just about rooting myself and being present. And, the improvisation 101. Someone, man, shout out to Emily, man. Someone that came on here a while ago. She wanted to take me to improv, like an improv show that was taking place in Fairfax recently. And I think they do them like every week. So I'm going to get to one of these. But just like an improv comedy show. You just go and sit in a crowd and it's just like a couple guys or people up there. And I guess they're just thrown scenarios or whatever.
See, I think that those are so cool.
That's what? Yes.
Have you ever seen, what is the show? Home Improvement.
Yeah. With Tim the Toolman Taylor?
Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Yeah.
So
Wilson?
Yeah, so I was told, I think my brother told me this, and I actually never researched it, so I could be wrong, so maybe you know if this is true, that a lot of that was improv.
I didn't know that, but I do know that a lot of great things are.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Especially like comedic things.
And, when he told me that, I was like thinking about the episodes in my head. And I remember sometimes when the sons would say something that they were so proud of, they couldn't even stop themselves from giggling.
That's awesome.
And I was like, I bet he was right. That was improv. And I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, there are tons of shows like that. Like so many things that like we don't know that are improv that are they're just comedic geniuses.
Yeah.
I mean, think of like SNL. Like Saturday Night Live is a show where, I mean, of course, there are a bunch of geniusly comedic minds that write up a bunch of stuff and they have these skits and they've been running for, I don't know, they're probably on like season 38. I don't know how long they've been doing Saturday Night Live and these comedians sort of cycle out. But there's so much that's improv. Like there's so much that just happens and it's live too. And there's so much that just happens on the fly. And when someone that's a genius just says something hilariously left field and no one saw it coming, like it's almost like you got, come on man, how are you not gonna laugh? Like that's why sometimes you just like they're just like trying their best. I love watching bloopers, like bloopers to certain TV shows like New Girl or any of these sitcoms where people are encouraged to improv. It's great because then you just get to see all these different reels, like take 3, take 4, take 5, and they have to keep doing them because every time somebody comes up with a new joke, people start bursting out laughing. They're like, okay, we got to roll again. It seems like so much fun.
I know.
It seems like so much fun. And the Improv 101, I believe the first lesson they teach is yes and. Meaning, whatever it is you have to say, I'm going to receive that thing, say yes, and continue on with it. I'm not going to reject it and act like you didn't say it or try to steer the conversation a different way. That's the fighting the waves.
Okay.
That's the resistance. Like you trying to control what should be talked about and how it should be. Like, no, let's go into it and let me say something to you and like you'll bounce something off. And then I'm going to say yes and. I'm going to be like, okay, cool. Let's deal more with what you just gave me.
Okay.
Like, let me not just curve what you said. Let me receive that and play on with it. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's
like that.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's something that just keeps things real fluid and in motion.
So you mentioned taking classes. Do you
at Nova, right?
At Nova?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So did you graduate with like a degree for something?
Absolutely not.
I wasn't sure. I was like, man, it sounds like he went for like speech or something.
Well, yeah, I went there and was studying communications.
Okay.
So I went there.
Which is like everyone's least favorite class.
Exactly. Like people hated it. When I was in public speaking class, people hated being in that class. I had a great
experience in mine though.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I did. I was surprised.
Oh, that's right. Because you said that you don't do well in group settings.
Well, it's like the pressure of being told you're going to speak on a certain subject. This is a lot easier because it is just natural flow. But if they tell you, this is what your topic is, I need you to research it and then tell the class, I'm like, oh, goodness. But with that class, it was so easy because everyone, day one, was like, okay, we're all nervous. And no one here is very confident. Yeah. So, like, we all just put it out on the table the first day. But that's another thing of just, like, you know, give a little bit of yourself, your insecurity, and then people can relate and you just understand, and then you're more comfortable.
We did improv in that class.
Did you really?
Yeah, people hated that. Like the guy had a basket at the front, and he was like, "I want everybody to go up there." And it's not like you pick one up and go back to your seat and think about it. It's you go up there one by one and you pick a piece of paper out of that basket and you read it. And as soon as you read that thing, he hits a timer. And it's like you have the next minute and 30 seconds to talk about that thing.
Oh,
and
Lord.
the prompts are very small. It's like one sentence. It's like talk for the next minute and a half about that thing. Now, I love that.
I bet that was really funny, actually.
Oh, my God. It's so funny.
Because people, if they don't know what that thing is, they're just like making up things, and you know that was so funny.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, but I love that. I mean, I was always that person too. I love to just go into something and just do it off the cuff, as opposed to like trying to write it out and outline it and stuff like that. That was just never me. It's like if I have the information. Is like, so if I do the research and I have the information, I'd much rather just get up and talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd much rather be that way because I don't want the paragraphs and I mean, you must have to be an amazing writer to write a paper, like an essay, and continue to go over it time and time again and write it in such a way and rehearse it in such a way that it doesn't become stiff when it's time for you to now say it in front of people. I'd much rather just know the information and then do extemporaneous speech so that way it's natural and I have the information. So it's not like I'm just pulling this stuff out of nowhere. Extemporaneous. Extemporaneous, yeah, off the cuff, like impromptu.
What a word.
Yeah, improvisational.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what I'm into. But I love it. Yeah, I went there. I took like I said, a music theory class for no reason. I think at that point I thought I wanted to be a guitarist or something like that. I was playing a lot of guitar at that time.
I was going to say, do you play the guitar? You were like, I just want to learn.
I used to play like 8 hours a day. I was like heavy onto it for like a few years.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, Jessica was around for that time. Her and I actually played a couple open mic nights together.
No way.
At a local Thai place. Yeah, called Zab Thai. I think they changed the name of it now, but it's still a Thai place. But yeah, we used to go up there. It was on Thursday nights. I used to go up there with my guitar. Sometimes I bring my electric. Sometimes I bring my acoustic. And I play sometimes I play something I wrote. Sometimes I play like a classical piece because I love classical, like nylon strings, like the way it sounds and classical pieces. Like I love classical music.
Yeah, me too. I do love it.
Yeah, so it's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I used to play open mic nights. I met a bunch of cool people up there. I used to do some stuff with it. There was a girl named Sarah Fuentes that I met up there, and she was a great singer. And I know I learned like the chords to Love Song by Adele, and she sang it out, and I love that's one of it might be my favorite song off the album 21 by Adele. But if not, it's fighting for like number 1 and 2. It's like around there. But yeah, like that was an awesome time. Awesome time in my life. Just going and playing open mic nights at this place. Anywho, yeah, I did a music theory class. I did interpersonal communications, public speaking, business communications, and then I took Spanish 101, 102, 201, 202. And then I got out because I was like, all right, well, you guys have now. I've exhausted all of the communication classes that you guys have for me, and that's what I came here to learn. I'm done now.
You're like, I can't get a degree from this. You're like, I've taken all the classes.
Yeah, man, I definitely could if I decided I was going to, hunker down and take all of the gen ed classes and everything else that you have to take.
That's why I dropped out of college.
Yeah.
Because I could not wrap my head around paying all this money for things that have nothing to do, or just things that you learned in high school, you learned in middle school, and it's just adding on to that. But I just couldn't find myself in it. Like I was like, nah, I'm good, man. You're just doing it. Why? Because everyone else is told to do it when you graduate. I can't do it.
I don't got time for that. That's not me. That's not me. Mm-mm. That's not me. One thing I will say, first and foremost, thank you so much for coming and doing this, because you didn't have to do this, right? So
thank you for having me.
Like saying Luke didn't have to bring you around his family and do all these things with the quickness that he did, right?
Yeah.
But he did.
He did.
And you didn't have to come here, right? Because I wanted to give like a small buffer. I was like, hey, if you want to go meet out for like some coffee or something like that, or get a bite to eat, like we can do that. And you're just like, man, listen, whatever, dude. Like we can meet, we can record, we can not, like wherever you want to do, we can do it. So I was like, well, let's just forget about it then. let's just come and have our first meeting be the recording. Let's just do it. So it was cool for you to just be like, yeah, like I'm going to be open and just meet this new person. Clearly a person that I like, I'm speaking from your standpoint, being Jessica, looks at this person like he's a cool guy. So, and
that's kind of what sealed it for me too.
Right.
I don't normally just I normally don't just meet random people, but I was like, I love Jessica. I've known her for a really long time at this point. So if she loves you, then it's kind of, it's right.
Sealed the deal.
Sealed.
So this is called the Any Last Words Pod. Is that for a few reasons. One, because, when I think of any last words, this wasn't really what it was. My friend just thought it really sounded cool, so we kind of went with it. But when I thought of any last words, I thought of a lot of the reason why I did this was because it was therapeutic for me. Right? Like just getting, like I said, what's inside out and expressing and having, who's usually my co-host here, Keon, great friend of mine. We've been friends since we were like in 6th grade. I think he was in 7th grade at the time, but we've just been friends since. And we mostly talk on here, but then I have a bunch of guests come on and they're doing things in the community or not doing things, whatever. Just anybody, really. Just coming and hanging out. And I just thought about how I want to be able to get what I do have inside out. I want to be able to get my words out. I do want to be able to express. And when you think of any last words, you think of like that being the question before someone is killed, right? Like, do you have any last words? Like, what are your last words? And I think that it is important that we express and we get ourselves out here and come together and have conversation and, attempt understanding, right? Yeah. So I'm really, really thankful that you came and did this. I think that this has been an awesome episode, an awesome conversation just in my life.
Aw, thank you.
So my last words for the people, because this is something that we do, and I'll go first. You can say something to the people. You can just say something to me, whatever it is. It's just kind of like a send off. It's kind of just a wrap up of whatever it is you would like to say in any regard. It can just be thank you. See you guys. It can be whatever it is you want, but just some last words. I would like to say thank you. I would like to say thank Jess. Thank all my friends, all my family, anyone that listens to this. I'm humbled by people listening to this. I'm humbled by the people that I'm meeting and the fact that they are giving me their time because they, like you said, don't have to do that. And that's very, very humbling. And it's kind of surreal, really. It's very, very cool. I don't take it for granted. I most certainly don't. And I hope to do this for as long as I possibly can. And anyone listening, again, if you're around and you want to come hang out, hit me up, figure it out. ALW Pod on Instagram. I love you guys. What do you have to say?
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
This has been such a great experience. I was really excited about it. So this is a lot of fun for me.
Nice.
I've never just sat and talked with someone for 3 hours that I just met, especially like this.
Yeah.
This is so exciting.
Awesome.
So I thank you so much for this experience. Yeah.
Yes.
And thank
absolutely.
you, Jess, for thinking of me. I thought that was so sweet.
Yeah, that is very, very nice.
It was so nice. Again, best compliment.
Yeah,
so.
I think she's going to love this.
Yeah.
Episode 117, baby. Peace.